nights when a couple things felt right. About a handful of days when all we could say was goodbye. About a handful of nights when a couple things felt right. About a handful of days when all we could say was goodbye. About a handful of nights when a couple things felt right. About a handful of days when all we could say was goodbye. 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 It was a long week, barely worth the memory, and then another dragging on eventfully. And I don't know how many more passed before I realized I've been here all too frequently. It's the season of repeating. The bodies I practiced one too many times, lose inside, deluded into thinking that self-aware means self-loathing. We had a long fight, barely saying anything. Another retread of boring insecurities. And when I don't speak, you can't know what I mean. We're running silence, building distance in between. It's the season I'm repeating. The bodies I practiced one too many times, lose inside, deluded into thinking that self-aware means self-loathing. So I can justify the ultra-frequent tendency of criticizing people happier than me. Self-aware means self-loathing. You know the cold wrecks my ability to function half appropriately, while you sit waiting hopefully for a life you think could be happy. Will I push on through till the weather turns? Will you lose your cool when I never learn? Will it all work out? Will it shed my doubt? Will it be something you can live without? Oh no. It's the season I'm repeating. Hopeless lines I practiced one too many times, lose inside, deluded into thinking that self-aware means self-loathing. So I can justify the ultra-frequent tendency of criticizing people happier than me. Self-aware means self-loathing. I told you about the drive, car engine screaming the whole time. I told you about the drive, car engine screaming the whole time. You smoked a cigarette, you said you didn't wanna die, just feel like it. You smoked a cigarette, you said you didn't wanna die. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. My head is buzzing, the alcohol is humming. It would be easy, but I don't forgive you. I don't even know why I drag my spine was rotting. You smoked a cigarette, you said you didn't wanna die, just feel like it. You smoked a cigarette, you said you didn't wanna die. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. You were like a drug. I couldn't sleep. You were like a drug I couldn't keep. You didn't hear me out when I was screaming loud. You didn't hear me out when I was screaming loud. Hands are shaking and I can't see straight. Skull is pulsing and I can feel my face. And the knocking on my ribcage door is getting louder than before. I'm forgetting how to breathe. I'm about to smash the screen. There's no use to explain, 'cause that just makes it worse. Make another move, make another change, make another noise or don't. So I'll pretend I'm listening. Smile big, don't let them know I'm thinking. There's no use to explain, 'cause that just makes it worse. I can't control my brain and thinking harder learned so much, and we're never giving up. And we bought right in. Yeah, we bought right in. Yeah, we bought right in. We were desperate children. We bought right in. Yeah, we bought right in. Yeah, we bought right in. We were desperate children. When I am 29, when I am 29, I'll start going to therapy. When I am 29, when I am 29, I'll start going to therapy. I'll make time then, no more excuses. I'll start going to therapy. When I was 24, when I was 24, I was fucking up everything. When I was 24, when I was 24, I was fucking up everything. I had 3 jobs and a broken heart. I was fucking up everything. When I was 3 years old, don't remember what I was told. I found empty vodka bottles in your briefcase. When I wasn't even born, did I deserve the scorn that I get with every year, but never asked for? When I am 29, when I am 29, I'll start going to therapy. When I am 29, when I am 29, I'll start going to therapy. I'll make time then, no more excuses. I'll start going to therapy. You only show up in my head when I can't sleep. And I used to think I could see you in different cities. And I'm letting go, but I'd like to know about a handful of nights when a couple things felt right. About a handful of days when all we could say was goodbye. And I'm letting go, but I'd like to know. I know this is growing up, I'm starting to see. But now when I see you, my throat closes up, I can't breathe. It's only getting worse in this garbage universe. But there was a handful of nights when a couple things felt right. There was a handful of days when all we could say was goodbye. There's nothing to let go. There's nothing left to know. About a handful of nights when a couple things felt right. About a handful of days when all we could say was goodbye. About a handful of nights when a couple things felt right. About a handful of days when all we could say was goodbye. About a handful of nights when a couple things felt right. crowd cheered. Took a deep breath, right in the new year. And the worry was surrounding, but the laughter wasn't stopping. I got old, when did you start feeling so? I don't know, I guess a couple months ago. That's a joke, I've heard the story not a lot, over and over. There's no use with resolutions, it's a lifestyle disillusion. I got old, when did you start feeling so? I don't know, I guess a couple years ago. That's a joke, I've heard the story not a lot, over and over. I got old, years and years ago. Yeah, I know, but I was never comfortable. It's terrible, but you can take control. Drop those rose-colored glasses on the ground. Step as hard as you can. What a glorious sound. We were never young, so getting old won't hurt. Stretch that aching back. It's January 1st. When did you start feeling so old? When did you start feeling so old? When did you start feeling so old? I don't know. When did you start feeling so old? I don't know. When did you start feeling so old? I don't know. When did you start feeling so old? I told you about the drive, car engine screaming the whole time. I told you about the drive, car engine screaming the whole time. You smoked a cigarette, you said you didn't wanna
Okay.
die, just feel
That's working.
like it.
Let's change it up
Smoked
again.
a cigarette, you said you didn't wanna die.
There we go.
I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long
Hi everybody. How are we doing today? Happy Tuesday. Happy effing Tuesday. We are just waiting for my guest to arrive, Mr. Craig Shay. And until he arrives, let's listen to some fucking tunes and hang out. How's everybody doing?
Island. My head is buzzing. The alcohol is humming. It would be easy, but I don't forgive you. I don't even know why. I drag my feet like stones. My eyes are closed, my fists are closed, and I don't know why. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. 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 I see the peak. Under my drink I saw the cliff. While we were talking, our time was rotten. You smoked a cigarette, you said you didn't wanna die, just feel like it. You smoked a cigarette, you said you didn't wanna die. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. I'm gonna die at a hospital on Long Island. You were like a drug. I couldn't
I can't hear you. Don't know if you could hear me. I guess of the settings. Oh, now I can hear you. Good. Can you hear me okay? Great. I got a little snowball microphone. These guys. They're really useful. Yeah. Excellent. New York's okay. I was living in Queens for the past 3 years, but in November, me and my girlfriend bought a house in Westchester. And I think the reason we bought a house a little bit north of the city is that we just wanted to be that much closer to Canada, you know? Oh boy. I think that. Yikes, yikes. I recently joined, I think the worst form of social media. It's called Nextdoor. Have you heard of it? Oh god, it's like, what if Facebook was just like boomers? uh, Parlor has like actually like a right wing slant. Nextdoor is just supposed to be like social media for people in your neighborhood, but like, it's kind of terrifying young people in your neighborhood. I guess it's a good thing, but it's cool if I drink on this, yeah. Yeah.
There's a comfort in the chaos,
Me
an
too.
exhausting kind of peace. There's a ringing in our ears.
How are you 29?
Last at least a week. And
Are you
no
29?
wonder why we're grinning with our bodies sore and shot, 'cause they don't know about
Oh,
the
got a couple months to go to therapy then.
'Cause it's easy feeling jaded, feeling older, feeling wasted, and it's all
There you go. I waited until I was actually 28 when I started going. I wrote the song when I was 28 as a challenge to myself. And then
me off the floor.
yeah, especially during coronavirus, like I've been, obviously it's a big physical health threat, but then I think we've heard of, I don't know if you know anyone, but so many stories of people just unfortunately taking their own lives just because they're lonely, and mental health is such a we're not supposed to be isolated, and I've been being very isolated just because we have to because it's safe, but I'm just saying like that mental health is as deadly as the physical health in this situation.
Me off the floor. So bury me in games, no close to skate route 24. When I'm finally worn out everything that I was living for, I'll stay close and you'll see magic as October never ends.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's really hard. I don't know about you. I tend to be like a little bit more of an extroverted person. Like I really like being around other people, and it like makes me feel like good about things. I don't know. You kind of just being around people and it's the only thing you could do. Sometimes I feel like having a job is important just because it's nice to have something to do. It's nice to have something to hate. It's like not other things in your life.
Well, it's nice to have that. It's nice to have that.
Like a routine.
Yeah, the routine, the reasoning, the reason to get up and do stuff.
Yeah.
So, for everybody who's watching right now, this is my buddy Craig Shay. Well, my new buddy. Let me turn off this music here. This is my new buddy, Craig Shay. He is from the band Cold Rex. Now, and he is from New York. So, Craig, where did the name Cold Rex come from?
Great question. Before we were in Cold Rex, we all played in a ska band called Eli Whitney and the Sound Machine, which is a really terrible name. I feel like when it comes to band names, me and my friends were very good at coming up with the worst band names possible, and really bad at coming up with good band names. So we spent like 6 months trying to come up with a good band name. We chose Cold Rex. It's kind of like a play on a term for like seasonal depression. Like I think a lot of us are not really winter people. We feel pretty bad in the winter. I'm sure a lot of people watching feel bad in the winter. So yeah, Cold Rex is seasonal depression.
Hell yeah, man! I can definitely vibe with that, buddy. Like we were talking about before, if it wasn't for working all year round, I would definitely have a hard time in the winter. It's been like winter for the last year.
Well, you are up in Canada.
Yeah, my igloo is just starting to melt.
My Canada experience is Montreal, because I played Pouzza Fest a few times, and we've just made friends up there. And I miss all my friends in Montreal so much. But we usually go up like the summer and the spring, and they call it orange cone season because they have to fix all the roads that got fucked up during the winter.
Yep, the ice heaves and stuff. Now, we actually got a couple bands from Calgary here that play Pouzza Fest. Julius Sumner Miller goes out there on the regular. Who else went out? Oh, Trashed Ambulance went out there. They're from Red Deer.
That's a great name. I don't know them, but I need to check them out based on their name.
They're great. Also, check out Brutal Reality Digest and Punkanormal Podcast. Punkanormal Activity. Right up your alley.
I don't know if I've been on that podcast, but I definitely have like heard of it and listened to it.
There's yeah, exactly. See, that's my buddy Josh. Who else has been out there? I'm missing a name, right? Belvedere. Have you ever heard of Belvedere?
I've heard of them. Yeah, have they been around for like a while? Are they on like a label or they on Jumpstart?
They're on Thousand Island Records.
Okay.
So is Trashed Ambulance. Yes, they have been around for a while. They were like they were around with SNFU just a couple years after they started, kind of mid-'80s. I'm going to say 1984. I had their guitar player Dan and their drummer Casey on the podcast not too long ago. Dan is a good friend of mine, and Casey is a new friend of mine.
Always good to have new friends.
Always, buddy, always. So, you're writing and recording right now, are you not?
Kind of always writing. Not... Recording is kind of it's a weird time, right? I haven't had band practice in like 500 days.
Yeah,
it's been
I know
a really long time.
I know a lot of people in the same boat, my friend.
So we've all bought recording equipment. Some people in the band were kind of already interested in production, but for Cold Rex, we all bought like the little red Focusrite boxes. And we all downloaded Reaper. Reaper, if you're not familiar with like Pro Tools or another DAW, something like that. Reaper is free to use, but you have to agree that you'll wear a mask when you go outside. And they like, did that last year. I thought that was funny. And I do wear a mask when I go outside. But we all learned how to use Reaper. And I've done little projects here and there. It's like nice to write in a room with people. So for Cold Rex, yeah, and we just try things right away, and we're really good at communicating. We've been playing music together for like 10 plus years, so it could be like try this like that. You could just like make sounds at each other and know what we mean and try it, and right away, does this work? Doesn't it work? And we'll vote if we're not sure, but we're pretty good at making decisions that way. So lately, we've been trying to demo stuff. Like there's one song. We like did 20 different versions. And that was really like an interesting exercise. And it was nice to have a reason to talk to the rest of the band, but like, it's not the same.
Being in the same room and having the instruments on and everybody's amps are turned on and like, you're tuning up, you strum a couple chords and then all of a sudden the other guy strums a couple chords. It's not the same when you're sitting in your room trying to get yourself motivated to do it. And you don't have anybody around to be like, no, you got to like, try this one. Or I wrote this one the other day, check it out, And then halfway through, you can throw your little jazz in there. And it's an entirely different vibe, man. And live streams just haven't caught up with it yet.
Oh yeah, you can't really live stream. Well, so what we do with Colrex is me and my best friend Mike Vizzy. We write all the songs, and we're the types to like we'll write just me and a guitar, or he'll write just him and a guitar, and we'll share it with the band. And then our band is really good at kind of like collaborating. Like our drummer has a music degree, and he's really really good at like turning a song on its head. Like he'll be like, okay, we're gonna do the first chorus groovy. And then later when we do the chorus again, it's going to be rocking. Like he has great ideas like that, things that I'm not good at thinking of. Or maybe someone else, maybe I wrote a song and it's not great, and someone else in the band wrote music that they don't have lyrics to, and I could adapt the song to that. It's just hard to do those things like in like a demo-y way. It's just easier to do it in person, you know?
Mm-hmm. A music degree. Hey, that must be fun having criticisms from a band member with a music degree.
I love being the worst musician in my band. It's great. Everyone lifts me up. It's the best. I'm decent at like therapy, right? It's like a 2-minute song. I wrote it in like I never write when I'm drunk. It was drunk. I wrote it in 2 minutes. It's a 2-minute song. We didn't like change a lot of it, but like I'm good at that. Like I could like if I feel the inspiration, I could like hit the ball into a song. And the rest of the band is good at making it musically interesting. And I feel like if you kind of have that, both of those things, it's ideal, right?
For sure, for sure. Therapy is almost at 1 million hits on Spotify.
I know. I got a funny story about that. When we first released it, like we had like a couple thousand plays, maybe 1,500, 2,000 plays on like another song on Spotify, almost nothing. And when we released Therapy, this is before like I even really knew Spotify playlists were like a big thing. Just released it a month before we were going to play Fest that year. And then it got on this big playlist, and I'm like, oh, it's getting all these plays, and I'm like, if it gets 5,000 plays by the end of the week, I'll take the whole band out to dinner. And then it got 10,000 plays in a week, so I took the whole band out to medieval times.
What a great celebration, though, man! Like, I'm just about at 200 subs on YouTube. I just started doing Twitch last week. I'm grateful for every single one of those. So like, I'm salivating thinking about 1,000, you know? Facebook is one thing, like, but man, that's awesome. That's great. Like to know.
Well, it's just luck, you know. Like we're a band. We're music people. We're gonna be in bands no matter what. We're gonna play shows. We're gonna meet people that way. And I think you just try to be true to yourself and do what you do. And then there's just you create opportunities where maybe you get lucky and maybe you don't. But you just make what you make. And like you can't write a song thinking I want the song to have 1 million plays on Spotify because you'll never do it. But I just wrote a song. 2-minute throwaway song people happen to like. You never know. You just gotta put yourself out there.
It's super catchy, man.
Thank you. I'm not afraid to make it simple and just try to be catchy and get my feelings out.
I got a funny story about this too, okay? Now, Dave, our mutual friend, I've known Dave since the beginning of high school. He's been one of my greatest friends. He's always been super nice, always been super caring, super empathetic. Now, he told me about you guys a while ago, and we had talked a while ago in a message about setting up an interview. Now, he had brought it up, and I was going through some stuff, as has everybody in the last year, right? So I wasn't really paying too much attention to my interviews and stuff other than what I already had booked and solidified. But at work, I'm always listening to music. So Therapy came up on one of my playlists, and I was like, this song slaps. So I pull my phone out and I check it, and I was like, Cold Rex. Isn't this that band that Dave told me about? Like, this is awesome. Like, I know Dave always gives me the good stuff. But to have it come up on its own, I was like, well, this is obviously, like, the laws of attraction and all that other floop-de-doopy stuff work into my favor. You know what I mean? So, great job. Great job. And your last album, fantastic as well. I was actually going through that today. Very good.
Yeah. I wish we could change the titles. We named it This Could Be Okay. It's a very optimistic title. And it came out in 2019. And then it was 2019. 2019. And then the whole world, things are actually very much not okay. So we were very wrong.
How ironic. You know, that might work to your favor in the future. So this was the year that the pandemic started. And I can tell you from experience, it was not okay. What has it been like living in New York during all this?
Well, I was in Queens when it all started, so I was actually the week it got real. Okay, let's fast forward. We'll do like a time. We'll Tarantino it. 3 weeks before pandemic really gets serious, we did 2 weekend tours with the Eradicator, which is a joke hardcore band. I don't know if you're familiar. It's so fun. It's like basically performance art. It's based off of a character who's obsessed with a game of squash. I love it. It's great.
That sounds awesome. That
yeah.
Have you heard of Oakley Dokley?
Yes.
Yes. See, that's right up my alley. I love that kind of stuff. Concept bands.
I think he's played with them. But yeah, so yeah, the Eradicator, and I mean, he was all set to do a big Australia tour with like Teenage Bottle Rocket that fell through because of COVID. But he's great. I love that band, and what he'll do is he'll ask other bands to tour with him and also be his backing band. Like he can play solo, but it's better with a band. So like we said, yes, super fun. So Cold Rex, Eradicator, we're playing these like heavy hardcore riffs. Like I don't usually play that way, but it was really fun. Week after that, I had like a work trip where I went to California and then Oregon. As I'm boarding the plane to California, I get an email that the event is canceled. But I'm kind of boarding the plane. You can't really like change your flight at that point. So I go to California. I'm in Pasadena, right outside of LA. Like that's one hotspot for COVID. That's where like it was starting. And flew up to Oregon. So like Washington State was like the other hotspot at the time. Then back to New York in time for New York to be a hotspot. And then I was told right away, like, don't come into work from home because you were just in California and Oregon. And then by the end of the week, no one was allowed in the office, and we all switched to work from home. But yeah, I was in Queens, so Queens is like I guess maybe not the first epicenter, but it was serious. And there's just no way to get away from people. I have 2 dogs now. I had 1 dog then. So you have to walk outside and you wear a mask, but you cannot get away from people in New York. It's very stressful, and no one knew what to do at first. And I was looking at some pictures from last year, and there was like 2 months, like we didn't leave our apartment for like 2 straight months. And it was me, my girlfriend. We live in a house now up in Westchester, and we had a roommate who was the drummer from Cold Rex. So that was kind of a nice release at first. Like we're very good friends. We got to work on some fun little music projects, and it was nice in a way. It felt like a cheat. We were still able to hang out with a friend. So that was cool. But yeah, it's like we didn't go outside for 2 months. That was crazy. We picked like a cold, rainy day to go to the beach last May just because we knew no one would be there, just to be outside. It was amazing. And it was super nice. And, then over the summer, cases kind of died down a bit, but like I still didn't see my friends. I would drive. I'm from Long Island, and I would drive out to like Long Island and hang out in my mom's backyard in the suburbs, and that was like paradise. I grew up. I never appreciated that backyard my whole life. It's so funny how the pandemic just changed my priorities.
I know exactly how you feel because I live in Calgary, which is like one of the hot spots of North America right now. So my family is from like small towns north of Calgary. I go there and it's people wear a mask, but it's polite. You got the crazy rednecks driving around, flipping you off because you're wearing a mask, but nobody's bugging you, and everybody leaves you alone. So it was weird to see people playing in the park, to see kids playing in the park, and people walking around like with their babies and stuff. Because in Calgary, everybody's masked up and everybody's 10 feet apart, and the other ones who aren't are just very ignorant people. They're freedom fighters. I call them convenience criers.
It's crazy. Like COVID has taught me. I don't want to be too negative. In general, I believe in people. I love people. I think if people are given a fair shot and good information, they can make good decisions. But like the other side of me is this year has just showed me like how stupid some people can be, and not everybody. A lot of people aren't. I don't mean like lack of intelligence. I just mean like poor judgment.
There's no critical thinking. It's like their critical thinking was just turned off for the automatic convenience of their day-to-day life. Now that has been interrupted, I am oppressed. No, that's not it. You're just interrupted.
Yeah, I mean, I if anything, I would say like being kind of trapped inside and living with restrictions, I would hope would give people more empathy for people who are like incarcerated. Like, oh, you don't like being stuck in your house? Imagine being stuck in jail. Like, that's
In
awful.
Alberta, they're all equating it to Nazi Germany and communist Russia.
It's a lot of the same here, unfortunately.
I'm waiting for them. A lot of them are Trumpers.
You have them in Canada too?
In Alberta, yeah, they're a
Why?
lot of Trump in Alberta. It's fucking nuts, man.
That dude's the biggest hypocrite. It's so obvious that Trump is the biggest hypocrite ever. He is an insider. He is just like this rich person who only cares about himself. He's a narcissist. He's not an everyman. He's not like some hardworking dude.
The dogs heard the whistle and they came running. Like, I guess. But, you know, stupid is as stupid does. And it's not that, I don't think they're trying to be purposefully hurtful. I think they're just, like you said, uninformed and probably agitated about the worrisome conditions of what's going on. You know?
That's true. I feel like government has failed a lot of people in a lot of ways.
Yes.
A big lack of leadership, confusing things at first. People don't know who to trust or where to go.
They're losing their businesses. Yeah. Like they're isolated from the things that kept them mentally healthy, and then they are reactionary. And then what happens? The white supremacists come in and say, "Hey, brother, I got a solution for you. I know exactly what you're feeling." And guess what? Their judgment's all clouded by anger and emotions. Turns out it's the other races that are causing these problems. And then
people just slip into that. It's crazy.
That's fucking... And this is where I say empathy. Empathy before suspicion and conflict, you know? Be empathetic. People are people. Like you said, people are, you know, you gotta fucking trust people.
Yeah, I wonder where that lack of empathy really comes from. Like, has it always been a thing? Or, I don't know, I think about like the suburbs a lot, or maybe even like rural areas that are particularly more segregated. Like, I think when people are only around people like them, they just make up stereotypes for other people, or they don't understand the reasons for certain things.
Or they get it passed down traditionally through their family line, and because they don't expand their horizons, they just reiterate those traditions, not even understanding that they might have negative connotations, right?
Yeah, you'd hope the internet would break down some of those barriers, and I think maybe it did for a time. I don't know, maybe for younger generations, I think younger generations are hopefully less susceptible to like propaganda. I don't know. Anyway, crazy world.
Yeah, crazy world. I love New York. I've always wanted to go to New York. It's something that calls out to me. Like, New York
calls out to a lot of people. I've like thought about my relationship with New York before, because it's a city. It's like the city for some reason, but it's like not planned out well, and it's very dirty. Like, it's just because when they built Manhattan, I don't know if you know this story. They charged these 3 dudes with planning out Manhattan, how it's all going to get cut up. I don't know. It's like the 1800s or some shit.
Okay, cool.
And they just like didn't do it. And then like the day before, they found a map that cut up Manhattan like they were supposed to do. But this map was just for property, not for planning. But they turned in that map, and that map only accounted for property. So there was no alleys for trash. So in Manhattan, on trash day, everyone just puts their trash on the sidewalk because there's no alleys, because these fucking guys who planned out Manhattan just didn't do it.
That's why there's fucking TV shows like Mr. Deeds, just a huge pile of fucking trash in the streets with rats running out of it, man. Like,
trash is real. And it's a little better in some of the boroughs in some places. But actually, one of the last things that happened to me when I was in Queens was my check engine light came on in my car. And I took it to the mechanic, and the mechanic sent me pictures because he found 4 empanadas in my car's engine, which means that mice or rats dragged 4 empanadas into my car's engine.
What?
Yeah, that's a real thing that happened. And then I had to go to the mechanic, and I'm the fucking empanada. Oh, the empanada guy's here. Everyone come out, meet the empanada guy. He had the car with the empanadas.
So is this real life? Like...
It happened to me. Yeah. And then I was like, can I avoid this? And they're like, don't park near garbage. I'm like, that's not possible, because A, there's no parking spots to begin with. I can't be picky about it.
You need a muffler cap.
There's no winning with some things. And like, it's a hard place to have a car. And worse than that, we had a tour van in like Brooklyn and Queens for years. That like, my girlfriend was like, you have to not have a van anymore. It's really affecting your mental health.
Oh man, no way.
She was right. Every week I had to park this fucking. When we were so we lived in South Brooklyn. Most of the band actually lived together. Me, Busy, and CJ, and Matan, our lead guitar player, was only like a 10-minute drive away in South Brooklyn. But we lived in Bensonhurst, which is like not like the rest. Brooklyn's really big. Have you been to Brooklyn, or you haven't been to New York?
I've left Alberta once. I got a sorted upbringing, so I'm just starting to build my life properly now. And with the podcast and the world opening up, I'm planning on doing all this traveling because I'll be able to. So one of my first stops is going to be New York.
So it's very different than a rural area. The thing that like a lot of people don't get about like
very small compared to New York.
Just Brooklyn is huge. People don't realize. I think people think of Brooklyn as just as like Williamsburg, but it's actually, if this is Williamsburg, like this is Brooklyn. So we lived in South Brooklyn in a town called Bensonhurst, like a neighborhood. And it's like very like Italian and Russian and Chinese, and it's like not hip at all. It's like a neighborhood that can't be gentrified. But we had a big apartment that wasn't that expensive. And like a 15-minute walk away, there was a big cemetery that always had parking. So for like 5 years, we just parked our van by a cemetery. We walked back every day. That was kind of nice.
That's not too shabby. We got cemeteries right in the middle of town, like right by apartment buildings. Like I used to date a girl who lived 10 feet away from headstones, and her whole apartment complex. But yeah,
was there good parking?
No. And that's the thing. There's no fucking good parking here either, man. $300 a month to get a good parking spot.
Ooh,
like okay,
that's rough.
So you say a big apartment for a good price. Now, what does that connotate in New York?
Okay, so in South Brooklyn, in Bensonhurst, it was a house, but we had just the second floor. Yeah. There was 4 bedrooms and 1 bathroom and a decent-sized living room. So the whole thing was $2,200 American dollars. So split 4 ways. That's like really cheap. Less than $1,000. Yeah.
That's not bad at all. That would be 4 bedrooms and an upper floor would be at least $2,000 a month here as well. But Canadian American, right? So
yeah, so
that's killer for New York, babe. Think you might want to move to New York? We got a lot of family here. I don't think we can manage that right away, but it's on the list.
The thing with New York, at least in my experience, and obviously I have a lot of privilege, but it's like there's a lot of jobs. Like there's always I feel, not for everybody, but I feel like for most people there's like pretty much always a way to get a job.
I'm a construction worker, so I got hard hat and a pair of steel toe boots, so I could walk on. That's how I moved out to here in the first place. Was just walked onto a job site and started working, and then they started paying me.
I think in the city there's a rule that they're never allowed to be done building it. So
yeah, right. Now,
feels that way.
The history of New York, is it like they do on? Is it like it is on TV? Is everything kind of gray?
I mean, there's cool parks and things. There's a lot of different. So there's different boroughs and there's different neighborhoods, and you could walk a couple blocks and feel like you're in a different city. So I don't think it's all gray.
That's so cool, man. That was kind of just a joke because of the whole way that TV shows do the fucking filters on their cameras and shit to show certain areas. I'm kind of stoned.
No, you're good. Something that would happen in New York is like all like half the parking in your neighborhood's gone because they're like filming a movie and you get to see like what movie it is. But then like when I used to live in a neighborhood called Kensington, and then there was not a lot of parking.
I live up the hill from a neighborhood called Kensington.
There you go. Well, this Kensington, it was like I think Bill Hader and I can't remember who else. His movie Skeleton Twins came out a couple years ago, so there was no parking for my tour van for a while. I was trying to walk to work one day, and the street was blocked off because Amy Schumer was filming something. Like I could see her, and they're like, "You can't come." I'm like, "Guys, I work right there. Come on, let me in." Like I know you're filming Amy Schumer.
I'll turn my phone off. Like, come on, I'm not going to take any pictures.
Yeah, there was a while. I had a friend for a while with this joke when I first moved to Brooklyn, probably. It was like 2013, 2014, so the show Girls on HBO was still pretty big. So I had this friend who, wherever we went, he would just say Linda Dunham was going to be there, and like everyone just believed. It kind of evolved into a silly joke. Like that guy over there, I heard that Linda Dunham's cousin. just like making shit. Because this New York, sometimes cool things do happen, but you could just like make stuff up like that, and people.
Has Bill Murray ever showed up at one of your parties and just started doing your dishes?
You could say that he did. Be like, yeah, one time we were at a tradesman by the sweatshop in Williamsburg, and Bill Murray came up and started making drinks for everybody. You could just say stuff like that, and people will believe you.
Like, yeah, he did that with us too. What else is new? This is New York. Maury Povich is on the train.
Yeah, I mean, you just see people on the train sometimes. Yeah.
That was my girlfriend watches How I Met Your Mother all the time. And that's one of the jokes is that everybody's met Maury Povich, and he's for some reason he's everywhere at once. Now,
yeah.
The stories about Bill Murray. Bill Murray is like a New York icon. Is he popular in New York? Because in Canada, everybody knows the stories about Bill Murray in New York.
Yeah. I mean, everyone knows who he is. I can't there was a while where he was like. I think his son had a bar and he was like bartending at it,
giving everybody tequila shots.
Yeah. I think that was like literally what happened though.
Yeah, I read about that. Everybody was asking for different drinks and he was just pouring them all tequila shots.
Yeah, I guess like the coolest kind of thing like that happened for me was it was more of a music thing. There was a bar for a while called the Trash Bar. So I missed all the CBGB stuff. I was too young. But I feel like there's a few venues, like Trash Bar feels like my CBGBs. And because it was a mess and they would just like kind of book anybody. But the beauty and the tragedy of Trash Bar is they would have an open bar an hour before every show. And if you were in the band, it was free to you. I don't know why you would do that. Because you're going to make every band terrible. And it would be like a Tuesday. But there was a while where I was playing Trash Bar a lot, and I would go, and I was like early 20s, fucking around, the song Therapy when I was 24, I was fucking up everything. I was doing that at the Trash Bar.
3 jobs.
I did go through a lot of jobs that year. Yeah, so Trash Bar, they would do, and there's this one bartender who's always super nice to us. She liked my bands, but her name is Leah, and she actually plays in the band Sloth Rust. I don't know if you know them. But there's that show You're the Worst on FX.
No, I'm a YouTube guy. I'm always searching out music and weird conspiracy stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, Sloth Rust are cool. I feel like that's kind of
send me links, man.
It's like grungy, but like they're really cool. But yeah, so they got their song picked up for You're the Worst, and they got kind of big off of that, and I think they made like a decent amount of money. But I remember when that was starting, Leo was like, yeah, some show picked up our song, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And then like the show got huge. It has a big following. You might really like it. It gets really dark at times is the only thing. But the song is great. Yeah, so that's one of my cool music New York stories.
Let's go into more music New York stories. I like those ones. Now, bands. Who are your influences, and are any of those influences around you in New York?
Yeah, I mean, it's like bigger influences, like when you're younger, you get into bigger bands, and like things are formative to you. I would say the 2 most formative bands for me would be like Against Me. Like they were my favorite bands since high school, and every album they evolve and do something different. And they're never trying to be one thing. They're always just trying to be what they are. And they give energy.
She's an amazing musician.
Yeah, seriously. So Lori Grace is huge inspiration. She's just like, I used to just watch YouTube videos of Against Me playing when I was in college. I would just look all the live videos on YouTube and I would just watch them. Like I idolized Lori Grace. It's just like I wanted to make faces like she made when she was singing. I just thought she was the coolest. And then the energy, like the first time hearing, reinventing Axl Rose and just a song about like a band that only cares about like playing and being good, and making a good time for everybody. It was very inspiring. So that. Very formative, and then otherwise, I think the Clash, like not the coolest answer ever, but
I like as a bass, Clash a
lot. Well, so I feel like there's 3 kinds of punk bands. There's Clash punks, there's Ramones punks, and there's Sex Pistols punks. So like Sex Pistols is like image, but maybe no substance. Like the songs could be good, but whatever. There's Ramones, which is kind of fun, simple. Can't blame anyone for having a good time. But then like the Clash. like, why is their music punk? Like some of the earlier records, sure, I hear it, but like they just did whatever they wanted, and they were kind of politically minded, and they were unique. And like, why are they a punk band? Like, I don't know. I don't think so, but I love it.
Hell yeah, that saxophone riff in City of the Dead gets me every time, man. Like that was the first CD that I heard the Clash on, and I was like, I know the Clash because I've been into punk music forever, but that just hearing that fucking saxophone in that song, I was sold. This is fucking deadly. But the Clash was punk for their message, man, entirely.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
and I feel like there's a lot of bands like that. Like there's a band now, Warriors, and their music is maybe a little bit more on the indie rock spectrum, but like lyrically, it's like about like being like non-binary and just like living life that way. And what does that feel like? And kind of it struggles there. And I feel like that's very punk rock to like go up there and just be honest and like bare your soul to a world that might not understand you. Like that to me is, but musically, is it punk? Like who cares? You know, it's just like awesome.
Of course. Let's be real here. Punk is never about musical, like, musicianship. It's not about technical musicianship. It's about heart and soul and feeling. You know? A lot of the punks with, like, obviously you saw in the States in the last 4 years with Trump, you get a lot of punks that are like, no. He's the one who's trying to do stuff for America. He's trying to be free. He's trying to do it free. And then you get the punks that are like, are you fucking serious? You're falling for that fucking shit? Because I've seen it up here with a few. Oh yeah, he's the one who he wasn't paid for by the corporations because he didn't take any of the salary from the tax money. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, come on. So we get a divide of the way that punks fucking think. Did you have any of that polarity?
I think there's like maybe a thread in like hardcore and maybe in some metal bands where people kind of get behind Trump. Like in terms of like the scene that I'm in,
No bands in my scene got behind Trump. I will say that first and foremost.
I think people struggle to know how to write about him because I think before Trump got elected, people were like, "It's going to be a punk renaissance." Because during the Bush years, Fat Mike from NoFX organized Rock Against Bush. Mm-hmm. That was cool, right? And like it meant something, and he was getting the word out about like a problem. And I don't know, I feel like Bush was like lawful evil, like he did bad stuff, but there was like a plan, and I don't like it. I think he was very bad. I don't think he was as bad as Trump, and I don't think Trump to me is not rehabilitated Bush at all. I don't forgive Bush for any of the fucked up stuff that he did. Not for a second. So don't get me wrong there, but it felt like it was more cohesive. Whereas Trump is more chaotic evil. Like, I don't think he's just doing shit. And like, maybe there's a bit of a plan, and that even scares me more.
Right? Like, holy fuck. 3 tweets? Like, come on.
It was too much. It was nonstop. So I feel like rocking against Bush like felt like an option, and rocking against Trump, it was almost like it was overpowering and it was too much. And if anything, I would say like maybe just like not white people need to be the voice against Trump, right? I think that especially for political, it's hard to write political songs. I think there's a lot of people who write political songs that like aren't good. They're too heady. They're overthought. They're not personal enough. Like for me, my music has to be personal. If I'm trying to write about a political issue, maybe I'm taking a step back for myself. That's not going to make the song good. So I feel like people who actually have the experience of being oppressed or of being other, those are the people who can write interesting music about politics and it's personal.
Totally.
Yeah.
Bad Brains comes to mind.
Great example, 100%.
When they were writing and they were playing, because they were instantly put up on a pedestal for technical prowess, showmanship, lyrical content, musical quality. Oh, where did you go?
Oh, do you not see me?
Oh, for some reason, you dropped out of the stream. Your audio's... Oh. No, your audio's... Hold on, I'll just pop you right back in here. Oh, there you go. You're back.
Oh, nothing dropped off on my end, but I believe you that I dropped off this.
Well, yeah, Bad Brains.
Bad Brains. I heard everything about Bad Brains.
Now, they were instantly put up on a pedestal. Musicianship, lyrical content, quality, just all around. And I still, to this day, find myself listening to Bad Brains. and quality, man. They're still fairly untouchable, and that comes from a place where me or you couldn't write from.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And I think that some like white musicians are worried they might be like replaced, but like I'm not worried about that. I think that
I think a lot of weird white people are worried about being fucking replaced. Tucker fucking Carlson pushes that fucking white replacement narrative all the time. He dog whistles that shit like fucking crazy.
He's such a piece of shit.
Oh man. No, he's just putting out the raw facts.
He's such a... I'll talk about raw facts. I have an economics degree. I'll talk about raw facts. I love talking about weird shit, but I don't like talking about made up shit.
I love it. Fuck Tucker Carlson. Rock and roll.
Yeah. Going off what you're saying, in terms of like my favorite political songwriters, do you know Mike Park? He runs Asian Man Records, and he's played in a lot of bands. Bruce Lee Band is one of my favorites by him.
I think I've heard Bruce Lee Band.
Yeah, really good. Like one of the few people who I think could write like a political ska record that sounds like it's from the 80s, but it's still relevant today.
I love me some good ska.
Hell yeah.
Fishbone is on my regular every day. I usually start the day with a Fishbone song.
Have you heard the new Jeff Rosenstock Ska Dream record?
No, I haven't. My buddy has been hyping me up about the new Mighty Mighty Boss Tones record. But
I've listened to it a bit. It's good. Like it's nothing they've ever done. I'm never like, oh, this is embarrassing. They're old. It's like cool. They still make records, right? Like I think that's like a good energy for that band.
No, the single that was released, I didn't like it. I thought it was.
I didn't like it, right? I don't believe in anything. Like this isn't the time for someone to say they don't believe in something. This is the time to believe in something.
You're punk rock. Like, come on. What the fuck? You're not just punk rock. Like, you're like Boston ska core. Like, you fucking hung with the fucking hardcore fucking crowd and did ska. You don't believe in anything?
I don't think they meant it in a bad way, and I think they're
think
like a tremendously talented band.
I don't think a lot of people mean it in a fucking bad way, but that's the thing is, like, take notice of your fucking surroundings and the climate, and obviously, I digress. You know, I'm not going to tell musicians what to write music about. I can
bring us back with a good Dickie Barrett from the Boston story if you want.
Roll it in, buddy.
I think I'm a reasonably big fan, but I'm not like a super fan. Like there is a super fan for that band, and usually once a year that band is like the hometown throwdowns. They'll play like 3 shows around Boston. People go to all of them. There's thousands of people. I've been to a few. It's super fun. So that crew that like always goes and they're huge fans, they were at some bar the night before the hometown throwdown started, and they ran into Dickie Barrett at the bar. And he's like, "Oh, you guys doing?" And I guess it's the throwdown. They probably make a lot of money. So he's like, "Oh, you guys got beer money?" Like, "We're doing okay." He's like, "Here, hold on. You guys are good kids." He takes like a fat stack of just like, I guess hundreds, and he just counts out a few. He's like, "You guys are good kids. Have a good night." And then the next night, they're out after the show. They're at the same bar. They run into Dickie again. "Hey, how you guys doing?" He's like, "Oh, you guys are good kids. Hold on. Let me give some more money for a drink." So even if you wrote a song that I don't love, I think he's still a great dude based on that story.
He also beats up racists on the regular.
Yeah, 2016, he wore that "fuck Nazi" shirt on stage. That was awesome.
Fuck yeah. Somebody yelling racial slurs at one of his band members and jumping off stage and just clubbing racists. One of my favorite things to do is see a good racist clubbing.
Yeah, I think the singer from Social Distortion beat up a Nazi too. So here, I have another beer. Here's to beating up Nazis.
Rock and roll. What kind of beer are you drinking? What kind of beer do you drink in New York, buddy?
I have this is Montauk Summer Ale. I think so. I'm from Long Island, and I think Montauk actually might have gotten into trouble among some Long Island people for supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. So I'll buy twice as much.
Hell yeah! Ben and Jerry's is the only ice cream we bring in this house.
There's a New York ice cream brand called Van Leeuwen that I really like, and I don't know the political leanings, but they make vegan ice cream that doesn't taste vegan, and I'm lactose intolerant, so that's very appealing to me. I'm not vegan, but I enjoy vegan food. So.
Same with the boss. Same with my partner Alex. She also enjoys. She just loves ice cream, but vegan and dairy free are usually the preferred flavors. But yeah, Ben and Jerry's. You know, living wages. Company stock options. Locally sourced ingredients, as far as I know. Come on, good stuff. Peanut butter flavored ice cream with pretzel pieces in it.
That's a controversial thing in Colrex. Peanut butter and chocolate together. I think everyone likes peanut butter and everyone likes chocolate, but I don't think everyone likes it together. I like them both together, separate, whatever.
I don't, you know what? I don't think I've ever met a person who doesn't like a good Reese's cup.
It's not for everybody.
Fair enough. You know, I'm not going to go around and I'm not going to go.
I love it. Hey, I'm into it. I don't get why people would be against it, but
what we should do is we should start a Facebook campaign like they did with the pineapples on pizza thing.
I gotta say, I don't have a strong feeling on it. I guess we could talk about pizza in New York. I could tell you about the best pizza place. I could tell you about the true best pizza place in New York that I've actually never gone to and will never go to.
Lay it down for me, please.
It's called DeFaro. It's in South Brooklyn, and it's good because it's one fucking old dude, and he makes all the pizza. Seriously. So lunchtime starts, they open, there's a line. First slice doesn't come out for 40 minutes. He literally makes each order as it comes in, and he cuts for every order. He's like cutting up the basil for that slice that you just ordered, but it takes forever. I actually heard that he lets his son help out sometimes now, but like it's the best pizza, but it's a huge pain in the ass, and that's kind of the best allegory for New York.
Do you think that it might be a mind game that it's the best pizza because everybody knows what goes into it?
No.
It's
maybe it's part of it. There's like a magic there, but I think that probably is the best pizza because I do think New Yorkers are very stubborn. Like in South Brooklyn, L&B Spumoni Gardens is this one place that everyone swears by. It's actually very distinct, so the first time you try it, you might not love it like as much as it is very good. But like these opinions are very controversial. Oh, here's a New York story. When I was in South Brooklyn, there's a couple pizza shops. There was an accusation that one pizza shop stole the sauce recipe to the other pizza shop. A year later, the guy accused of stealing the pizza sauce recipe was found dead, shot in front of his house. It gets crazier. He had $10,000 cash on him. No one stole it, which means that they just killed him to kill him.
They wanted to send a fucking mob message.
He stole the pizza sauce recipe. You can't do that.
Don't fuck with it a sauce.
It's a lot of pride there. I would never mess. There's like parts of South Brooklyn where like you just like there's some bars that like I would never go to bars in that neighborhood because like it's just like they weren't for you. Like they were like Russian bars. If you stood in front of them, they would stare at you until you left. And it was fine. Like they're not gonna fuck with, but you don't go. There's like an understanding.
Well, yeah, you haven't watched TV. Like there's like Law and Order is a show.
It is. We used to have a practice space where I'd walk by like a special, like a special victims unit or something, and I'm like, oh, I like this show. I'm gonna go to band practice now.
Like, fuck, man. How many rappers, hardcore bands, TV shows? Like that's. Come on, it's New York. You know a mob guy when you see a fucking mob guy. Cross the street and go home.
I would say you don't know a mob guy because at this point, a lot of people maybe have just watched a lot of television and might just think that they're mob guys because they're old.
Very true. You know, just a guy's just like, he's just got some aftershave and some nice jewelry on and he's got his shirt open a little bit and these people are like tourists are snapping pictures of him like, oh, that's the guy from The Sopranos.
There is a weird thing in New York where, like, someone will be like, oh, it's a really good restaurant. It's probably a mob front, but, like, the best chicken parm.
Yeah, we got a couple of those. We got a couple of those here in Calgary, but
if the food's good and they're not bothering me, I don't care that they always have a table open for someone I'll never know. Whatever. It is what it is.
And you'll probably have to leave when they get there, regardless of how much of your food you have left. Pay now. Just leave. You know what? Just leave. They just ring a bell and everybody knows that that's time to go.
No, I feel like there was like one restaurant in my old neighborhood in Queens where like it's really good. It's really, really good. But there were always like 4 tables open. Like they'd be like, oh, we're full. Or one time me and my girlfriend made a reservation and we still had to wait like 20 minutes. And it's like, that's a little weird. It's like but there's always still 4 tables open. And I'm like, those tables are for somebody. And I don't need to be a part of that. I'll wait. I don't care.
It's New York, man. I love the stories, man. Like, oh, even when I see a movie and I just see the New York skyline, I just get lost, man. I don't know why. I'm a small town kid from fucking rural Alberta, Canada. Like, I'm a redneck fucking kid. But for some reason, I just gotta go see it. Alex has
something hypnotizing about it. It's something hypnotizing. Like when you first get like when you leave the airport, if you get like a taxi somewhere, there's like a highway you go on and you pass the skyline, and like taxi drivers have said there's like this magic moment where they pick people up and they see the skyline for the first time and they feel like anything is possible. That's definitely like exists.
Alicia Keys wrote a song about that shit. Like, come on.
She did. So the thing I say about New York is it's a city that doesn't love you back. It's like endless, and you just give it everything, and you get to do very cool things. That like a very New York thing to happen would be like someone would be like, oh hey, the whole city's playing a free show. I have an extra ticket. You want to go? Like, oh, I really like the whole city that much. I'll totally go to that show. You have a great time. Maybe you can get into the whole city because they just happen to be playing a free show, or like bands play after shows. The thing is, like everyone tours through New York when they go on tour, and when they play New York, they give you their best show. So you get like the best of everybody all the time, which is like really cool. The other thing is, like they say, if you're a musician, you can play a different show in New York every night and never play the same thing twice. And there's different scenes, and that's true to a degrry. The other thing is because it's like everyone has their own band, so it's kind of hard to get people to come to shows sometimes.
Everybody's in that because you can play a different show at a different venue every night. There's a good chance that all the good bands are getting shows whenever anybody else would be getting a fucking show, right? Like, I know for myself, when I was in a band, when we weren't booked to play the summer festivals, we weren't going to the summer festivals. We were booking other shows. That's prime showtime. That's why there's a festival that weekend.
Yeah, people aren't that good at booking festivals in New York. Like, I guess there's like Governor's Ball and stuff. Like, there's that sort of thing. I guess like Punk Island is cool. You'd love Punk Island if you ever come down to New York. It's usually in June. It's obviously not happening right now. But all of like the punk promoters in New York they'll rent out an island like Randall's Island or Governor's Island. So there's some islands like in New York, and there will just be like 11 or 12 stages. It's always free. Yeah, it's just like a lot of bands. There's really no headliners, like no bigs. Occasionally they'll like slip in like a crust punk headliner, if, like someone knows somebody.
Sweet.
Yeah, there's always like 1 or 2 just like crust punk stages, which is kind of neat. But yeah, it's like it's a free event, and it's like I usually like I'll play a couple sets or something like that. But
I bet they rent an island because of the smell of the crust punks.
You know what? At Punk Island, I never noticed the smell of Punk Island. It's all outdoors.
Oh, nice. Okay, fair enough. But the crust punks, they have a fucking musk to them. I have a couple of really solid crust punk buddies, and they're musky. I'm not body shaming. I'm just cracking jokes about my buddies, right? Like I still let them come in my house and everything. Like I'm not an asshole about it.
Well, a potential fun fact. So the producer for Cold Rex, Jesse Cannon, in the past has produced crust punk records. He's done Morning Glory and he's done Leftover Crack.
Really, those are New York locals, right?
Yeah, the whole C Squat scene. I've actually been to C Squat. That was an interesting place. It's like this big apartment, and like jam bands were playing, and the band Slothrust I mentioned earlier, they played. That's why I went. But the thing with C Squat, so it was like a show, so you have all these like hip kind of New York people going, but then you have the people who just happen to live there, who just like are doing whatever, and they don't give a fuck about it. They don't give a fuck about the like hip people who are like going to see a cool show. They're like, I'm gonna steal your beer. What are you gonna do?
And these people are probably like, oh great, I get to tell people that my beer was stolen. My beer was stolen at C Squad, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt for $75.
Man, I was at like a before COVID. I went to a bar I liked in my neighborhood in Queens, and there was a crust punk dude hanging out, and he could just tell I was a musician. I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And I was talking to him for a bit, and he was like, "Can you play on your phone?" He's like, "This one Morning Glory song," and I was like, "Yeah, I'll play this Morning Glory song." He's like, "Ezra's great," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I know the guy who does like leftover crack records." And this crust punk was like, "Fuck Stizza." He's like, "One time, I fucking broke Stizza's nose." And I'm like, "What's your name?" And I texted Jesse. I was like, "Did this guy break Stizza's nose?" And he's like, "I don't know."
Stizza gets into a lot of shit sometimes. Like I could imagine.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yeah, like he leftover crack came and played in Calgary, and I have some friends that are into some questionable things, and they played the show and did some questionable things with Stizza that night, and. When I saw him, I was on my way to the show, and he was on his way to McDonald's with the girl from Days and Days.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of Days and Days. I'm not a big folk punk guy. Like, there was a folk punk guy named Jesse Stewart who came to a show, and he was just a complete asshole about all my friends because he showed up really late. And I was like, hey, man, my friends, like, came to fucking see you, and you weren't here. You didn't say fuck all. You didn't even make a post about it, and they're not coming back to fucking see you. And he was an asshole about it. So... I was like, yeah, you crust punks are fucking dickheads. Like,
sometimes,
like,
I think sometimes it's like this on cosplaying. Sometimes
a lot of that's like, what I was getting at. Like a lot of you, and I heard Jesse Stewart's legit, but a lot of those legit folk punk like travelers it's a hard life for them. They're mentally ill. They don't really fit in, right? So I can understand that, but. I feel a couple of them just like to fucking travel around in the summer, and then they stay at their parents' house in the fucking suburbs when it gets cold. Like, you know, I'm not stupid, but at the same time, I'm not. I try to remain non-judgmental and just say, you know, I'm not a big fan of the music, but he looked strung out when I fucking saw him, and I know what strung out fucking looks like. And all bullshit aside, I really hope he doesn't end up like so many good fucking like talented people who just don't change their lives because they're validated by their fan base.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I mean, we were talking about therapy at the beginning of this, and when I first started going to therapy, and I was like, you know, I could just like live like an idiot and just like never be in a stable relationship and break up with a million people and write a million songs about it, and they would be good songs. And my therapist is like, yeah, you can do that, but hasn't that been done before? Kind of like,
that's low-hanging fruit for punk rock, man. Especially for like the more pop punk styles. That's really low-hanging fruit. You're going to write songs about hating your town next? Oh, man.
I'm from Long Island. It has a complicated history.
My dad really sucks. Like...
Well, hey, that's like half my songs right there. So.
That's a punk song that's been written before.
I feel like I've heard that punk song. I do get along with my dad, but I do write a lot of songs about him.
Hey, fair enough, man. Wherever you can get it from. But don't go for the low-hanging fruit of your ex-girlfriend. Like, can't you grow? I feel like we've grown out of that.
Well, I released a solo single in February this year where it's called See You Around, but like the main line of the song is fuck it, I don't hate you anymore. And it's just about, and it's like, I don't want to see my exes, but like, I don't hate them. I hope they're doing well. I don't want to talk to them. But like I've you know, that's like maturity, I think, because I think some people do this thing also where they're like, I got to be friends with my exes, and like that's a little bit weird sometimes. Like it's okay to move on, but you don't have to have a feeling either way. You know, everyone, you know, you hope for the best, and you don't have to shit talk people, and you just move on.
They can just be people. They don't have to be people that you interact with just because of that one singular experience in the past.
Yeah, definitely. There's one line in that song, I gotta See You Around. I released it solo. It'll probably be a Cold Dark song one day. But I stole it from a friend of mine who got really mad at her ex and their friends. And I guess it was maybe a few months after their breakup, but she turned to him and she said, "Every gray hair on my head is because of you." And I thought that was so funny that I put it in the song.
What a great and like passive-aggressive, like, that's a good passive-aggressive dig. Like,
it was amazing. I would say it's aggressive. She said it right to his face.
Like, but just the content behind it, you know, like she's not wishing any harm on him. She's not saying anything like vulgar or like variably and directly insulting. but something meaningful for sure. And it could be aggressive in the way she said it, but yeah, man, like I could think of so much more painful and hurtful and vulgar things to say, but that's meaningful and deep, sophisticated.
I think I wrote it down and I used it in a song.
Hell yeah! Did you give her a credit?
I told her about it. I played in a band with her also. I played in another band called Answering Machine. It's this woman, Sammy, and she's like so good. She's a really talented singer. She sings like Stevie Nicks. She writes great songs, and like I love being in a band with her and everyone else in that band. I just kind of play bass in that band. I wrote like one song. They're like, "Do you want to sing in this band?" I'm like, "No, you guys are good. I don't want to ruin it." I'm like, I just want to play bass.
Let me start off with some real good self-deprecation. I'm not as good as you. I'm not. I don't even think I'm that good at all.
Well, it's the bass player's job to know it's not about you. If you're a bass player and you don't know it's not about you, then you're fucking up. Like you are there to not get in the way of everybody else.
But to still be there, because if you
have to be there,
you have to be not in the way, but still there.
When I was a kid, when I was in middle school, I played a string instrument. I played viola in orchestra. And I had my two best friends in middle school also played viola, and we formed a viola trio. And within that, there's some music written for 3 viola players. There's first viola, second viola. Who would ever want to play third viola parts? Viola is already not that interesting in music most of the time. I think it's a beautiful instrument. But who would want to play third viola? Me. I love it. I like playing simple stuff. It's the best. It's the best. You just support it. You're rhythmic.
You're still included.
Other people do. Yeah. Like I just want to hang out. I mean, I think what's so great about music, I mean, I think you'll agree because you do like the podcast and the Twitch and YouTube and everything, is like it's a good pretense to do other things. Like it's a reason to be social. It's like you have plans, you have things to look forward to. You meet people when you want to travel, like you said. Like for us, like for touring, like we went to music festivals and met people all around the country, and that's how we met people to tour. So like music is a good pretense to do other things.
Oh, for sure. I wish I would have stayed because I dropped out of school. It's a very common story for punk rockers around my scene.
High school or college? Or?
High school. I dropped out of high school because I had to take care of my mom. She got really sick and my dad left. So
no judgments ever.
Oh, of course. But yeah, so I dropped out, and music for me was an escape for me. That's how I got out of my humdrum like small town life. And I've been a performer since I was 9 years old, playing in church bands and stuff. So I totally know exactly what you're saying. To be able to access that, but for me, I can't. Playing music now is so much effort, and being in a band.
It's hard right now.
Dealing with, not even before this, because I made the choice to step back from playing music in 2018. We released, my old band is called World Class White Trash. I think it's convenient that we didn't carry on through all of the social climate, because obviously we would have gotten tagged for that. So
it's a name you want to walk away from. Hey, I was in Eli Whitney in the Sound Machine. Eli Whitney's a fucking piece of shit, so I totally get it.
It's not something that you want to endorse. So regardless of the connotations behind it, it still can be seen as racially derogatory, and that's not something you like. But we never saw that coming. Right. I stepped back from music after we released our final EP, and I tried in vain to get back in a band, and I respect my position now. Being a podcaster, trying to get into music journalism, trying to broaden my horizons past just being a guy on stage yelling in a microphone, because I feel like I'm fairly well spoken and I know my shit when it comes to music. So I've picked my position now, and I go and do parts for bands every now and again. Like I'll record vocal parts for bands and stuff and do co-parts, but I'm still linked right in without even having to be in a band. I'm still linked right into the music scene, and it's like I haven't even left. And I honestly don't know, and now I can meet people like you, right? And new friends all over the place, and I don't know how I would be able to do that without music.
It's like I feel like it's a superpower sometimes. It's like a superpower. It's a way to network. It's
a
this
universal language.
Special thing. I feel like sometimes you hear stories of normal people going insane,
And I think like if I ever had those feelings that where some people go crazy, I would just maybe like write a song and then kind of process it and move on. Whereas like if people don't have this outlet or this reason to be social, they go crazy.
So, yes, totally agree. For me, not being a musician anymore, I listen to a song. I listen to specific songs. Being a recovering drug addict, I have nightmares about doing drugs. So Sunday night,
Okay.
nightmares all night about doing drugs and old situations. So I woke up feeling really jittery, feeling really cold and really closed off. So I was able to listen to my music all day, and I was able to get through it by lunchtime. And then the rest of the day was fine. A couple of really specific songs, a couple really fast, really positive ones get me through every time. And it gets easier, the times get smaller, but music it's a universal language, man. It speaks. It's how a person can speak to a person without speaking to that person.
Would you feel comfortable sharing any of the songs that you go to that help you through those times?
Of course, man. Of course. I'm an open book, buddy. That's why I do the podcast. Is so that
I would be sensitive just in case.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, man. I know a lot of people who can appreciate that as well. You know a band called RKL, Rich Kids on LSD?
Yes.
Stay positive right off the bat. Keep laughing. That whole album is amazing, front to back. But Keep Laughing, the song, is it called Keep Laughing or Stay Positive? I just go to RKL and it's the first one that pops up on my playlist. So
Sure.
It every time gets me going. Another really good one is it's a Fishbone track. Stupid Ass Bitch.
It's like what I was going to suggest, but I was thinking it's probably not that one.
I love it. I fucking love that song. I got reinvigorated with them when I watched The Weekend at Fatty's stream. They slammed. Holy fuck. They're all older gentlemen. And
Yes.
they slay. I was blown away at how good it sounded on a stream, and they're in the backyard. I'm like, holy shit. So that put that right back on my radar again. What's another really fast one? Another really hyper positive one, Less Than Jake. Than Jake. I love Less Than Jake. Actually, Warped Tour, Calgary, 2006. I was a young buck. I think I was 13 at the time.
I was 7.
I went to Warped Tour, and Less Than Jake was playing. I had lost my teeth a couple years before. Well, they're doing their crowd banter and everything. I'm running around in the center of the pit. They call me out in the center of the pit. I was looking at the guitar player, and the blonde spiky Chris. I was looking at the guitar player, and he was watching me, and I'm like, okay, this guy's watching me, so he calls me out. Who's that guy with the red mohawk and the missing teeth? So he says he's going to buy me new teeth if I start the pit for the next song. So I start the pit for the next song. I go over to their tent. I'm like, so how do we do this? I know it was just a joke. Like, I know how these things work. It wasn't my first show in front of everybody. I'm like, how do we do this? So they signed my vest. I still got that vest sitting with me. They signed my vest. They give me a pack of pins and a drumstick.
That's cool.
I'm not a drummer. I lost all the pins over the years, man, but I still got that signature on my vest, and I still have that vest. It's totally unwearable. But it's those like I haven't been put on the spot like this before. I'm usually the guy who asks the questions, right? Now I'm going to put a list. Now I'm going to put a Post-it on the wall behind my monitor.
It's tough to remember when people are like, if someone's like, "What's your favorite song in the world?" You're like, I don't know. Listen to music all day. How do I not remember?
My favorite song in the world changes. But
Yeah, me too.
one thing always stays the same. Thin Lizzy.
Yeah?
Thin Lizzy forever. I love Motorhead too. Motorhead. I got a Motorhead tattoo on my belly. Like, I love the old school. I love all the old. That's real feel music, you know. Lemmy was one of those musicians who was listening to music after playing music. He would go back to his bus and he'd listen to old blues, and he'd drink whiskey and he'd snort speed, and he'd watch Family Guy on mute while listening to old blues tunes. And one of his favorite bands was Thin Lizzy, and Phil Lynott, an amazing musician, a person of color from Ireland in the 60s.
Yeah.
Like, wow. You know, he writes songs about missing the bus home after a curfew, and then having to spend a weekend in jail just because he didn't make it home from a certain part of Ireland. You know, like, that's shit that we would never fucking experience. Like, that's real feel music, you know, real heart and soul music, not music just written to party, right? And nothing wrong with that. Like,
you're right.
Shout out to Steel Panther, who, you know, does hair metal just for the sake of writing hair metal music. But I'm just like you, man. I get into music for the feel of it, for what it says to me, other than what it's saying to me, you know. And not just punk rock, not just metal. I was listening to Bloodhound Gang this week because that cheers me up, man.
What song?
One of my favorite ones is Uncool As Me. Just the lyrics he writes are fantastic. Jimmy Pop he's a fucking lyrical marvel. He's a force to be reckoned with. And some of the ways, like, I write the songs that girls like to dance to. It's hard to clap with your dick in your hand, dude. Like, and he plays the ultimate beta male role. And he's just, shit slaps. Like, I'm all about it. I'm able, because I have my Bluetooth in my ears to receive calls from my boss around the job site. I'm able to listen to music all the time. It works out really well for the podcast, man.
It's a lot of music. Yeah, that's like the thing. I don't know. I always remember, like in high school, there's this attitude, especially in the punk community, that like the new stuff sucks. Like old music is better. But like I never found that to be true. I feel like there's always great new music. Especially now, like I'm 32 now, and I still feel like every year great music is put out. I don't feel like there's ever a lack of good new music. I don't feel like all music is, I don't know. I feel like if you think music is bad, like you're being lazy. There's always great new bands, always great new albums, always exciting things happening in music.
I totally agree. What are you listening to right now?
So Jeff Rosenstock from Long Island, just like me, he lives in California now, but he was formerly in a band called Bomb the Music Industry. He plays in Bruce Lee Band with Mike Park sometimes, and his old ska band was called Arrogant Sons of Bitches. But so the Jeff Rosenstock solo project has been largely this kind of indie rock thing, and I would say that he is a very unique songwriter, and he never like lost that authenticity to him. So he did the solo project where he's like indie rock, right? And it's doing pretty well. And then he just decides, his last record is called No Dream. It came out last year. It's great. And then he's like, as a joke for April Fool's Day, he was like, oh, we should do Ska Dream, which is all of No Dream but ska. And then he was like talking to the band about it. And he was like, but what if we actually did it? And then they re-recorded their entire record, but ska. And I mentioned it because I think Angela Moore from Fishbone plays a sax solo on it. It's really cool. You got a lot of guest musicians on it. I think Mike Park's on it. But yeah, Ska Dream, if you want a new ska record. Or if you, No Dream is also really good. I like the original version of the record a lot also.
I will check all of them out, man. I'm stoked. Now, I hear Angelo's one of those kind of guys in the punk scene that you're liable to just see at a show. I feel like he's probably got that vibe of like you could call up Angelo and he'll come and check your band out. I feel like
that's it. Yeah, the most ska person I know is probably Jimmy Doyle, who played in the band called The Fad for a long time. He's also played in the Forthrights. I'm sure he's played in some other bands, but he's at every ska show wearing like a fitted suit. And he just is always having a good time. He's like every ska show.
Dressed like ska. Just dressed in ska.
He is ska, and you'll like go to the bar. One time my girlfriend was like, I don't know if I saw Jimmy Doyle or just a different dude in a suit at the bar.
No, it was Jimmy Doyle.
Jimmy. I want to go say hi.
He's a nice dude.
Oh man, I can't wait for the world to lighten up. Now, I only need to get one shot because I had COVID and recovered from it. But I can't wait for all of this to unlock so I can make some trips down and do the podcast on the go.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I got 2 Pfizer shots. As you know, in America we have all of the vaccine, which for I think is maybe not necessarily the best thing. I think we should probably share more of it, which it seems like America's starting to do. But yeah, especially like in India, we got to share more of it. I have friends in Canada who it's spaced apart a lot. I know it seems like the plan in Canada is to give everyone 1 dose, and then give people a second dose in like 12 weeks or so.
What I'm noticing is a lot of people are being able to get thrown on lists to get the end of the night remainders. So a lot of people that weren't planning for it are getting in there and getting dosed as well. So imagine that's boosting up numbers as well, right? I have to wait for a month from when I think it was when I had my symptoms. So I'm fairly close. I'm fairly close to go for my poke, but being 29 years old, I still, am waiting for the post that says, "Hey, your age group is ready to rock." I don't really know how it works, but I'm not against it. I've been vaccinated for everything else. Like, come on.
Yeah, and the one shot, I know that like the flu vaccine is usually like 40 to 60% effective. So one like Pfizer shot is like 60% effective. I think it makes sense. If everyone has the one shot, it makes a lot of people it's like a numbers game, right? I think of it like in terms of 100 people. If like you can make 60 out of 100 people don't get this thing, you would do that, right? Okay, sure, that's what that means. So I don't know, but my hope is that more vaccines are shared with countries like Canada.
I agree. We actually had we got a lot of conspiracy issues out here right now. We got a lot of people that are selective, that choose to trust doctors selectively. This is why I say crying for convenience and not fighting for freedom. Because you can't tell me that these people have not been to a fucking doctor before. Come on. You go for checkups, you have to go get a doctor's note so you call in sick for work and you don't lose your fucking job. But now's the time. Now's the time we question it because you feel like you're put on. I think you feel like you're put on the level of people that you don't see and that you don't respect. So you feel like you're being oppressed now. Crying for convenience.
Yeah, and I get the vaccines are new, like mRNA vaccines are like a newer thing, but I think there's a lot of dishonesty in the discussion there. Like it's not like they just developed it last year. This is stuff that's been in research for 10 plus years, and they just decided to try it with COVID, and they did extensive trials, and it seemed effective, and it doesn't seem like there's any danger there. And I don't know, I think it's basically a miracle. It's funny because I feel like if anyone saw something like this in a sci-fi movie, they'd be like, "Wow, that was the right thing to do, vaccinate everybody." But it happens in real life, and everyone's like scared, but they just don't understand the data, or like they refuse to believe the science of it. And science is complicated. I get it. It's not an easy thing. No one knew there was going to be a pandemic.
Well, and then you have alternative media and the rise of social media and deregulated information on social media. And then you have social circles that only share this deregulated information and share it like gospel. And then they feel threatened when anybody else tells them they're wrong.
Very true. Our brains are not wired to handle a lot of information. Our brains are wired to fit into social groups, right? And I think that's why you see a lot of what we see. People don't care about being right, or some people do. But if you care about information, you're fighting against your natural instinct to try to be better. But our brains are wired to fit into social groups. So if your social group is like, I believe in conspiracy theories and the vaccine's poison and I'm not going to look into why, then you're just doing that to fit in, and that's your instinct. And I get that to a degree, but it's not based on actual information.
Well, and somebody posted this video and they put a new perspective on it about people who don't want to get the vaccine. It was, well, then don't. You don't understand. Part of this is people not getting it. Every experiment needs a control group, and regardless of how you cut it, you're part of the experiment anyway. The vaccine's already been integrated into society. whether you want it or not, you are still a part of the experiment.
Well, I think those people, it's not enough. It's not just about not getting it for themselves. It's about letting people know, and it's about, oh, I'm different. It's become this like political issue, which I think is very strange. Like you would think not getting a virus wouldn't be political, but people have like wearing a mask. You mentioned earlier, it's become this political issue. But why? Like the flu is really down this year because everyone wore masks. The flu couldn't spread as much.
Washing
like,
hands, everything's getting sanitized. Like that,
yeah.
When people try
People
and bring
politicize it. It's crazy. Like I don't know. People have this idea of freedom, and it's like the like I have two thoughts on it. One, it's like the freedom to die. Apparently, like that's all people care about instead of the freedom to enjoy things.
My uncle, my sister, my grandma passed away at the end of January. She was peacefully. She went peacefully. You know, the only thing not peaceful about it was the way my family interacted. But me and my brother, yeah.
Sorry.
No,
Laugh.
totally. It was
Just funny.
hilarious. It was hilarious. So we're getting into that. My Uncle Darren hasn't worked in 5 years. He was a rig consultant. Now, he's crazy. He's crazy. So I don't want to say a bunch of stuff on and then have him listen to this or somebody listen to this and then like get it back to him and then try and say he's going to sue me or something because he's fucking insane. But he hasn't worked in a couple years. He's been living off of everybody else for a couple years. He's a pro-Trump guy who lives in fucking Canada, who doesn't work, who thinks he has a say in society and how people should live their lives. Like, so we're talking about individual freedoms. And I'm goading him on. I'm goading him on because he's a fucking redneck. I'm gonna goad him on. I want to laugh about this later in this kind of setting. Like, this is fucking great for me. He's my uncle. I don't care. So, I'm goading him on, and we're talking about, my sister brings up, you know what they said. They were taking away your freedoms too, and they made it illegal to not wear a seatbelt. So my Uncle Darren looks my sister dead in the eye and says, that's why my wife never wears a seatbelt. Because it's her freedom of choice.
People will just pick anything to be crazy. Like, yeah, but that was a big thing even in America. Like, you know, when they made, or in the States, when they made wearing seatbelts like a legal issue, people fought against it. And like there was a big like rights activist against that who died in a car accident. Because like, look, it's just a good idea. And I know that you're against like, oh, well, you want me to do something, I'm not going to do it. But it's just kind of immature at a certain point.
Preservation of life. You're in a fucking giant hunk of steel hurtling down the fucking road. Like, you're going to trust those brakes to work for you, but you're not going to trust the strap across your body that you can see and feel to stop you from moving?
I mean, the irony is that people who complain about like identity politics or like, you know, virtue signaling literally do those things to death.
Oh, yeah. They do the people who don't wear masks in stores and then talk louder than everybody else. But then they whine when they see these people making posts about Black Lives Matter or making posts about their own personal charity groups or organizations they're a part of. Oh man, can't you just leave that alone? That's done to death. And it's like, weren't you just fucking whining about how you think you're in Nazi Germany because you have to put a piece of cloth on your face to go buy a fucking coffee? Like, on all over the internet so all your friends could comment on it and share that post and say, yeah, standing up for your rights. Like,
so I wrote a song at the beginning of COVID to try to process all of this, and I don't know if I'll ever actually record and release it, but it's called America is a Capitalist Death Cult, because it was the only way I could rationalize the way that a lot of people were acting, which is like, oh, this is a capitalist death cult.
Good old capitalism.
Everyone has this idea of like, oh, you just work yourself to death and that's it. And maybe you get lucky, maybe you don't, but you have to do it. You have to work even if you get a virus or even if your boss is bad or even if you're not making enough money, you just work until you die. And like, it's just so crazy to me.
And you risk dying if you don't try and work till you die as well, because you could die from poverty.
Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing about the states is like some states are better than others for the social services. Like New York City, if you're on Medicaid is like if you are under a certain income level, you get health care. It's actually interesting. If you're old enough, you get Medicare, and in the States, you get health care. You do have to pay for it though. If you're under a certain income level, you get Medicaid.
some states are not good at giving that to everybody, though. And then in the middle, you're squeezed. It's based on your employer, which doesn't make sense to me. I don't think that. But like some states, like there was a federal expansion under Obama, who obviously like a flawed president, but like he was offering Medicaid expansion, and states said no. I don't know. In New York, Medicaid is so good that like folks with like HIV get like their HIV medication is covered,
and that's expensive stuff.
But I think it's so great that it's covered. I'm like,
Hell yeah.
hell yeah, New York. People
Hell
in New York
yeah.
City get their medicine. Like I think this is like an important thing, you know?
The first step would be insulin, man. Insulin. Diabetic people having free access to insulin. Like
Trump supporters in the States think that Trump made insulin free for everybody. They think that, and it's not what happened. What happened was he made like shitty insulin affordable at Walmart for everybody, but that's not the insulin that actual diabetic people take. So it's really not helping anybody. It's like not what people actually take. So I don't know. My dad's been diabetic pretty much my whole life, so I'm very, I have a lot of empathy for that issue. I know what it's like. I've seen what he's gone through. So yeah, I absolutely think anyone who's diabetic should get like free medicine. Why not?
Well, yeah, because it's not. They need that to live, and they're not unhealthy. Like, these are people who lead and live lives. Like, in a capitalist world, they're contributing to your economic fucking power machine, bloodthirsty fucking mechanism. They're one of the bodies that can feed it. You think that they would keep that body at least base health to fucking feed the machine. Like, they're fucking, it's so fucked.
I think we're on the same page.
Capitalism is a fucking horror show, my friend. But being a construction worker, not just that, as a high school dropout, I don't fucking understand any other economic system. You have a degree in economics. Now,
I do.
What economic system do you see fitting society the best? Because obviously, like, people instantly go, oh, yeah, you go socialism, you're going to be eating bugs in Cambodia. You know what I mean? Like,
well, bugs do have a lot of protein.
Well, we already do eat bugs. Look at everybody fucking chewing on lobsters and crawfish boils down in Louisiana, man. Like, we already eat bugs, let's be honest. Crabs.
Oh, we do that. We do the lobsters in the Northeast also, but yeah. So my idea with economic systems. People have this idea of like socialism or communism, like it's a button you press. Like if Bernie Sanders won the presidency of the United States, he would like tumble into the White House and push the socialism button under the desk. But I don't think it's quite like that. I think you kind of need buy-in from everyone. Like there's a conventional wisdom, so to speak. Everyone has to think or believe in something for it to happen or for norms to happen. We have laws on the books, but like those laws aren't objective things. They're interpreted in certain ways by people who are flawed. So I think that it's not about like we have to like just do this or that. I think that economic systems are more of a description of what everyone believes at a certain time. Generally, in my political ideology, I'm progressive, and I'm sure I'm not always perfect or right, 100%. I think anyone who's insightful or mindful, you can't always think you're right because things do change and understandings of things change and information changes. I think there should be universal health care just because like day one of my macroeconomics course, my professor was like, all right, well, here's why every economist thinks you should have universal single payer health care. And then here's why it'll never happen. Because he's like, if you look at it from just the pure economics of it, from a risk perspective, if everyone has to pay into a system for healthcare, we all get from it, right? But not everyone's going to need healthcare, but you might need it. Anyone who pays into the system might need it. But it's like a risk pool. When you have everyone pay into a system, there's less risk because not everyone's going to get sick. And if you do get sick, you're covered. So I feel like the benefit is obvious. So you have a lot of people who maybe think they're healthy in their 20s, or 30s, like not paying into the system that would make the risk pool like less. So instead, people who get healthcare may be people who need it more. So that's more expensive for healthcare providers. So it's just cheaper kind of for everyone if everyone pays into this system, and then everyone gets to draw from it. So I guess the downside is people are paying for healthcare they don't necessarily need. But I think for healthcare, you might need it, so you should pay into it. So the other piece of that is you have people who want to make money off of healthcare, and that's why it'll never happen. But it could happen because I think we're getting to the point where people are fed up.
Well, yeah, we're seeing a lot of people we're seeing a lot of big companies, like franchise companies, saying, "Oh, poor me, poor us. We can't find people to work for us because they'd rather be on unemployment benefits." And it's, well,
That's so interesting, right? But it's like you have to raise wages. It's been so long since wages have been raised.
the cost of living has gone way up, and the fucking wage has stagnated.
70s to now, wages have been stagnant, but worker productivity, as technology has gotten better, has increased. So we're all doing
Hundreds of
way more
percent.
work. We're all doing way
Exponentially.
more work. But where does that extra money go? Not to workers. And I'm not saying like there can't be rich people or CEOs or whatever, but like
There
maybe
needs
they
to be
make
more
20 to 30
accountability.
times.
There needs to be more accountability for for a maximum amount, and not just a minimum amount. There needs to be X amount. There needs to be a cap on your personal wealth, and then in order to be a part, well, this is obviously how I personally feel about it, right? But I think a cap on individual wealth, and then anything over that gets cycled back into the social programs for the fucking area in which you live. Period.
I agree. Can I have like
Yes.
2 minutes to go pee and then
I
come
got to
back
as
and
well.
continue
I got
talking
to
about
as
this?
well. We'll
All
take a
right,
break.
everyone on the podcast.
Awesome. This is going great. He's fucking dropping some gnarly stories. All right. All right. So, if you're just joining us, here with Craig Shay. He's gone for a bathroom break. I just got back from my bathroom break. We are talking about punk rock and economics. Right now we're talking about economic systems. Very interesting conversation. So, if anybody's watching, drop some comments in the chat, please, and thank you. Don't forget to hit follow. Oh, he's back and he's got another Montauk Ale.
That was so important.
That was mine as well.
I had like 2 beers. I'm trying to switch up the koozies. I got a Colbert's koozie.
Oh, nice
Ooh.
spice. Very nice spice.
Thank you.
Where can
Koozies
you...
are the business cards of punk rock.
I would think business cards are the business cards of punk rock, but then again, when do you ever see a punk with a business card?
You know, I like this one because it doesn't have the band's name on it, but it's for the band. They're called Bong Mountain and from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
They're called Bong Mountain?
It's called Bong Mountain.
Sweet.
Yeah, and
Like-
the other was Fest Wrestling was my other koozie.
Do you think that means like a mountain of bongs, or like a bong?
It's one big Bong Mountain.
Oh, a bong the size of a mountain.
Yeah, I've asked this question before myself, so I understand.
Respect. It's the first, whenever I hear things like that, kind of like vague, it's like, all right. let's break this down before I can allow you to continue with this ludicrous band name. Let's establish the meaning behind it.
They're another crew that like they were just really bad at band names, but I like that they chose to own it with Bong Mountain. But they're great because they're truly a band that just likes the things that are like good about music. They make records when they want. They go on tour when they want. I think they're all like their 30s. They're like, we don't give a shit. They're just like, we just want to be with friends in bars and basements, and they get cool opportunities sometimes, but like it is just about the love of it, which is very refreshing and nice.
Hell yeah, man. I can dig that. Now, we got a band out here in Montreal called the Ripcords. Have you ever heard of Ripcords?
I haven't. We could talk about the Montreal bands that I know.
Okay. What Montreal bands do you know?
Oh, well, I have a tattoo on my arm. I have a couple, but this is it's a ship in a teacup. It's for this band Oh My Snare, and they're like my best buds ever in Montreal.
Oh My Snare.
Oh My Snare. I know, we tour with them, and like I'll be unloading drum equipment, and I'll be like, what do you need? They'll be like, I need the snare drum. I'll be like, oh, My Snare.
Oh, ouch. Man.
I like their... Yeah, they're like, I love them so much. I miss them all dearly. They're like my favorite people to hang out with. And they just make really cool, weird records also. Like they'll write songs about, like you mentioned conspiracy theories, like they'll write songs about like the mycelial network, which is the idea of like a multiverse because there's like mushrooms.
Yes, I've been getting more into mushrooms lately to help with my mental health and my depression issues and my anxiety issues. And man, oh man, are they ever enlightening and elevating little nuggets of knowledge. I tell you what. And
I feel like I missed the boat on drugs like that. I'm like a very uptight, anxious person, so I feel like...
I thought I did too, because I've never tried acid. Like, I've never been a psychedelics kind of guy. I only got into mushrooms because I knew that they would help me with my depression. And I'm the type of person that will do anything to help my depression as long as it doesn't involve hurting myself any more than I already am. And that's the problem with a lot of these pharmaceutical drugs that help with these mental illnesses, is the side effects or coming off of the drugs is worse than the actual fucking illness itself.
That's fair. I mean, from what I'm a person who I've thought about, like, should I go on meds? And it's been suggested to me before. And I've talked to my therapist about it. My therapist... he's not a psychiatrist. He can't prescribe medication, but he will suggest it if he thinks it's important. And we've talked about it. He's like, I have Klonopin for having like an anxiety attack, but I take it honestly, like less than 3 times a year. It's nice to know I have it. I know it's in a drawer. I don't go there 3 times a year. I'm like, I need this. Otherwise, I don't touch it. I take it very seriously.
And that's good.
But
That's good.
Yeah, I'm fortunate that it's like not more appealing to me.
Very fortunate. There's also the stigma, the driving stigma behind medicating mental illnesses because they're invisible illnesses, right? So what happens is, what I've seen is people get convinced that they need this. They need this medication to treat their illness. So when their doctor says, no, I need to wean you off this medication, without them going to therapy, without them going to other doctors and seeking other opinions, these individuals get stuck thinking their doctor is wrong, and then they seek to, because they feel they still need the medication, right into the street drugs and the self-medication. And
that's fair. There's definitely like this the prescription drug to non-prescription drug pipeline, so to speak. And I also want to say, like, everyone's different. Like, there are some people that do have to be on medication. Maybe someone who's like bipolar, for example.
Yes.
And no judgments. And I've known people who are bipolar who are great. Like, that's...
I got lots of... I myself was diagnosed bipolar, seasonal depression, manic tendencies, high anxiety, ADHD, little bit of insomnia in there as well, and medicated for all of them when I was younger. And my mom saw the change in me and took me off the medication and started letting me smoke weed when I was 15.
Oh, 15 is a good time to start smoking weed.
So, and I stayed at home and played video games. You know, I don't have a criminal record. My family, I have a lot of criminal history in my family, but not for me. And I like to think that you just gotta keep an open mind. Keep an open mind, and don't always go right for the first solution when you really want to figure something out. Because especially when it comes to personal personal insight. You can't let somebody else give you the personal insight on yourself.
Well, that's kind of the answer, right? I feel like we live in a world where we crave objectivity. What is the thing that we should all be doing or knowing? And I think we don't live in a world of objectivity, which is hard, right? We all want to know what to do. What's the right thing? What should I be? But that's not really an answer. Like, there is no answer there. Like, you kind of have to figure out, like, what do you want to do? What works for you? All of our brains work very differently. We also, like, we didn't evolve to deal with this modern world particularly well. Our brains are, like, not built for all this, really. It's hard.
Exponential technological growth. Like, a computer in a whole room that can't even process a megabyte versus 1,000 gigabytes in your pocket today.
It's crazy. Imagine going back to, like, I remember the first time a movie was on YouTube, and I was like, this is wild.
Me too.
Like, that's like a funny thought now, right? But, like, it wasn't that long ago. About 10 years ago, I would say.
I remember when I got a PlayStation 3, and my dad bought a big plasma screen TV, and this was the pinnacle of technology for me. I was like, I have hit the fucking big leagues now. I got an HDMI cord, and I went online and I figured out how to calibrate my TV for it, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm a gamer nerd now. Little did I know PCs existed. PC gaming existed. But yeah, so I realized there's a browser on my PlayStation 3. I could stream movies. I had every movie. And like I said, I never went out. I didn't go out and do a lot of partying all the time. I didn't leave the house at night to go and get into trouble. As soon as it started to get dark, I skateboarded home. I started rolling joints and playing video games until I got tired. Nothing happens.
That whole thought you just shared would be like the best song.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm getting there.
It's getting dark. I'm gonna skateboard home and roll a joint.
I'm getting there. I was a vocalist for a long time, but I've actually started playing guitar, and I'm gonna start taking guitar lessons. And that's where I'm headed, is for some good old-fashioned punk rock.
Well, I was on Instagram. You did that song. It's like a metal song. Is you and a drummer? Is that Don't Try So Hard? Is that what the lyric was?
Stop Trying So Fucking Hard. So that was for an 8-hour songwriting challenge. And this happens in Calgary. Actually, you can get a hold of this guy yourself, too, and be a part of this. So Interim Music here in Calgary, they do an 8-hour songwriting challenge, and they pick a day every couple of months, and everybody who's a part of it, they start in the morning. The only rule is you have to get your song in by 7 o'clock. And then they all do a big live stream at the end of it, and everybody watches and listens to everybody's song. And so my buddy's like, hey man, do this 8-hour song challenge. So we went over to his house. My one friend brought over all of his streaming gear and his cameras, and we streamed the whole process. And I went crazy. I just started writing like a song web, like an idea web, with just ridiculous shit on it. I'm like, see, nu metal. We're going to go nu metal. Where do we branch from nu metal? Fuck. That's used a lot. Angst also used with fuck. We got to go with that. So we were using that in our video and stuff. But Shat Music, one of my friends, I'm not going to say his real name because he likes to remain anonymous, but he's an amazing musician. He uses that as a side project to kind of express himself because he makes his money from recording and engineering serious music for other musicians. So he invited us all over, and we did it. We did that song in 6 hours, and we did the video in 2. And I was dead by the end of it. I was going to say, it's
a long day. You're making it sound like, only an 8-hour day for a song and a video. Like, that's a lot, dude.
I work 9 hours. I work 9 hours a day on the regular doing construction. But on the
screaming the whole time.
Yeah, and that was just it. I was just being me, and I had it turned on for a bit, like the natetrash persona turned on, and by the end of the day, like I had to run because I had some personal family stuff. I've got so much family stuff to deal with lately. But I had to run because
it's great for writing.
It really is.
Unfortunately.
And but yeah, that song was pulled out of nowhere. Like those lyrics were that phrase was my friend yelled that at our friend who was doing the streaming, Chris, and said, think of some lyrics. And then he's like, I just need to stop trying so fucking hard to think of lyrics and they'll come to me. And he's like, perfect, that's what's going in there. So that became the hook for the song. And these 8-hour, this is a great thing too, is these 8-hour songwriting challenges are keeping artists interested in trying to create and interested in showing it off, because the live stream at the end, you know, people set it up like you put it on your TV, you get some snacks and some drinks, and it's kind of like a show almost, right?
It has that feel. Live streams aren't perfect, but like at least for me as a musician, sometimes it is nice to have something to look forward to.
And the thing is it's you know, not every band does videos, so the comments section is the show. Everybody
Yes, exactly. And like sometimes you see your friends in there, and it's like just nice to see a familiar name.
That's why I switched over to Twitch, was for the interaction. I want to get away from Facebook so bad.
Oh, Facebook's a dumb. Oh, hold on. So Twitch. Let me follow you on Twitch right now. Let me.
Heck yeah, buddy! I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay. Twitch.
Now,
okay.
Twitch is yeah, buddy. Yeah, rock and roll.
Right.
See,
Still loading.
the Twitch purple. Is that because your phone is old? No, that doesn't look like an old phone.
Couple of years. Okay, following. All right, hold on. We're gonna follow Trash Talks.
natetrash Talks on Twitch.
Okay.
I was drunk one night, and I was a spur moment of inspiration. I was like, I'm gonna make sure I reserve my Twitch name right now, just because there's so many people out there named Nate Trash starting a podcast called Trash Talk. So I gotta get on it. And I forgot my password. And I forgot
Okay. Well, my phone is freezing. So.
Sometimes when I'm not very good at getting drunk anymore, so I get a little rowdy.
For me, it's about I can't drink quickly, so it kind of works out.
And these days I don't like the taste of booze, so it fits properly. I can try beers and have a couple beers, and I can try some of like the craft breweries here in town and stuff, and it works out well. I
think weed is better than booze.
Yes.
Me. Okay.
Totally agree. Weed being legal in Canada now makes it really easy for somebody like me who would rather smoke weed and chill than anything else. But yeah, I'm looking at getting Restream. There, hey, that's us, buddy. Right on.
Okay.
Now I'm looking at getting Restream and paying for the subscription, because then I can stream to the Trash Talk Facebook page as well as from Twitch. But with the free Restream, you can only stream to your personal Facebook page. So that's how they get you. Capitalism. Again.
I played in a band called Sketchy, and we had a song called Capitalism is a Drag.
It's like Scooby-Doo. You know when you watch Scooby-Doo? Except for the monster is every problem in the world, and then when they pull the mask off, it's just capitalism.
It's just the old groundskeeper, but maybe the old groundskeeper would be committing crimes if he had a pension. I had a question for you. I know about the interviewer, but whatever.
Lay it out, buddy.
So me and my girlfriend have matching this tattoo, this one here. Not the ghost in the jar, but it's a UFO abducting a guy. And we have this conversation sometimes about like certain conspiracy theories are fun. Like Bigfoot to me is a fun conspiracy theory because no one gets hurt. People talk about this. People look for him.
Actually,
you could disagree with me. That would be fair.
There was a documentary released called Sasquatch on Hulu, and the story behind it was a guy working on a pot farm. And
I just watched that.
Right? So good.
That's like not about. It's like not about Bigfoot though. The first episode's about Bigfoot, and then the rest of it's about organized crime.
They leave it open ended. They're like, what if? And then it's like they're like, the story is it's probably these guys probably got chopped up and they framed Bigfoot for their crime, right? But
well, it's like King Kong. It's like man was the monster, except for in this case it was like a drug cartel.
But I totally agree with you. Bigfoot is one of those harmless ones where it's like the guy on that documentary, Bobo. He looked like a nice dude. He looked like the guy who's probably going to help your grandma bring her groceries to her car every day at the grocery store, right? But that's also the guy doing Bigfoot tours and talking like, yeah, they threw a fucking boulder at me.
But you mentioned interest in some conspiracy theories, and
I was thinking about there's speaking of Netflix, there's a show called Midnight Gospel. It's have you seen it?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Getting into doing because I can't microdose. I can't risk it with my work. My work's too dangerous.
Okay.
So I do macrodose therapy. Not macrodose. Like I don't do exponential amounts. I take enough that I can feel the effects. One of my favorite shows to wind down to is Midnight Gospel because the stories behind it and the voice of the podcast, it's so coherent, but the visuals are so incoherent, and it's just an amazing experience when you're on psychedelics. It's very much an experience.
There's like a thread there. There's a thread that you say it's incoherent, and it's incoherent in the sense that you like are just captivated. You can't predict. It's not like a typical narrative.
Yeah, there's a story going on in the animation that's entirely detached from the podcast itself. Like,
well, it goes in and out, I would argue.
When Dr. Drew, when he's
Dr. Drew is like this guy that we all kind of hate, but like that episode's awesome.
Yeah, but he's this tiny little president guy, and they're shooting zombies in the apocalypse, and he's talking about substance abuse.
That's the first episode. Yeah, no, I love. Yeah, so I feel like that podcast kind of like edges into the conspiracy theory world in a way that it's like not. It doesn't feel harmful. It doesn't feel. Yes. We have this new kind of like.
It's not Alex Jones.
So it's not like, oh, the vaccine actually gives you COVID. Like none of that stuff. But like there is this world, I feel like, and I think you remember it too, like the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s of like being a conspiracy theorist meant you were maybe a little alternative, but like not a shitty person, and you might maybe have some interesting thoughts. So with all of that in mind, you mentioned being interested in conspiracy theories. What are some conspiracy theories that you're interested in?
Going back to Netflix, have you seen the Sons of Sam documentary?
No, it's on my to-watch list. I'm like a week away from watching it.
Now, that's some cool stuff. The occult, and that's the scary part of conspiracy theories, right? Because that is occult murder cults, you know? Like, that is satanic murder groups. And, like, dog killers and, like, horrifying stuff. But to understand that, let's say, authoritarian groups like police forces are so much cults themselves. You know, a police force is a fucking gang, no matter which way you cut it. They're a gang in every way that you describe a fucking gang. Now, when you see the way that this documentary is laid out and how he presented all of this evidence just to be stonewalled and called a ridiculous conspiracy theorist. Oh, you're discrediting the work of many great, strong officers who know their business, and you're just a journalist, and you don't know how to... A journalist is a fucking better investigator than most police officers. It's their job to do that.
I agree.
To vet their sources, to make sure their information is sound and can last through scrutiny and criticism, right? So he released a book called The Ultimate Evil, which they say helped kick off the satanic panic in the 80s with the Son of Sam, because his book was about the Son of Sam and Charles Manson, and it was about an occult network attached to Berkowitz. Now, Berkowitz came out and said that he was part of a group. He only murdered 2 people out of the 8 that he was accused of murdering, and then Maury Terry, who was the author, who the documentary centers around. Paul Giamatti narrates as Maury Terry.
Hell yeah! I used to run into him in the city sometimes, going back to New York.
Hell yeah!
There was like a year where I would see him, like him and David Cross. I would see like twice a year.
Fucking Cross.
I'd be like, I know
without the beard.
With the beard.
Oh man, that's a good David Cross to see.
2014, 15, but I digress.
Hey, you're
David Burke. My parents were dating in New York City around the time David Berkowitz was murdering people. So my parents would go on dates and they would be worried that they were going to get murdered by David Berkowitz.
Fucking scary, man.
It was scary.
So, he compiles all this information. There's one particular case where he nails down a suspect that he couldn't quite connect. But that suspect, he said that the only way this murder could have been perpetrated was if this guard was the person who did it, and this guard would be the link to the satanic cult network. Well, Maury passed away. 2018, they go serve a search warrant at this old security. Well, he's not a security guard anymore, but he was the security guard in this murder case. They go serve a search warrant. There's a bunch of cops, body cams. This guy, they open the door, and all of a sudden, this cop backs off. He's like, he's got a gun. He commits suicide, and then they pull up. They were serving a warrant to search the premises because they were going to convict him of this murder. So he was vindicated years after his death with more evidence after being stonewalled and made a laughing stock by the news media. Like anybody who would bring them on their talk show, Geraldo, Maury Povich, all they would be like, oh, satanic panic. And he's like, no, like I got actual credible evidence. Like, let's talk about that. And then that kind of ties in with what we were seeing with the conspiracy theories these days. A lot of the Trumpers talking about, oh, satanic pedophiles all over the place. And it's like, there is satanic, I'm not going to say satanic pedophiles are running the world. Okay. Because I think lizard people are running the world.
Well, obviously.
I don't think lizard people are running the world, but I think rich people are doing bad things.
They are lizard people, Craig.
I don't know about that.
No. That's just another conspiracy. So that's just another fun conspiracy theory. But it's weird to see, because I've been into conspiracy theories, being an outcast. We're punk rockers, man. We were all outcasts at one point until we found each other. So when I was in middle school, moving from redneck town to redneck town, and not being a redneck, not being a hockey player, coming from a broken home, not really broken, but coming from a separated home, being a skateboarding punk rocker in redneck towns, I didn't have a lot of friends. So I spent a lot of time in the library. I wouldn't be late for school if I was in the library. I wouldn't get in shit for hanging out with the wrong people if I was sitting in the library on the computer by myself. So I would just research conspiracy theories. My main site was Above Top Secret. And they became a hardcore right-wing conspiracy site when Donald Trump was elected. They thought he was the Lord and Savior. And it sucked, because that site gave me my love for cryptozoology, because they had cryptozoology forums in there. And they had pictures and videos and people who would post huge, long stories about it. And I was never a Reddit person. I am now, because I love the forum situation, and I can't hang out on fucking right-wing forums, man. I'm not having my IP address tied to that shit. Like, come on. Now, another good one is Hollow Earth and ancient aliens, man.
Do you believe in that, or is there like a culture for you? Like much like if you like punk rock, you have friends because you like punk rock. Even if you don't like every band anymore or whatever, do you believe in ancient aliens in the sense that it's like a fun cultural thing or it's fun to talk about?
I don't believe in ancient. Personally, my personal belief is an advanced civilization that was advanced in entirely different and unfathomable ways compared to ours, that had a civilization worldwide that was wiped out by a world cataclysm. Maybe and there's proof for this. The Younger Dryas theory from fucking Graham Hancock. Who's the other guy for that? I can't remember his name right now.
Okay.
But they have like actual tangible evidence for the Great Flood story. Tangible, physical, like geological and geographical evidence for the Great Flood story. So this ties in with a lot of stories of civilization. Now this wipes out information. This flood wipes out all of this information. Now we also know that nature can eat a car in less than 100 years.
Yeah. Right
down to its rubber. They say there was a guy who said that the longest human-made structure in modern times will be the Hoover Dam, and it will last 11,000 years if it's not taken care of. After humans are gone, it has 11,000 years until it's entirely destroyed. Now, we see structures like the Sphinx. We see structures that are aligned with stars, that are aligned with cycles, with astronomical cycles, and this is where I say advanced in ways that we couldn't fathom but more advanced than we can fathom. You know, the pyramid, the Great Pyramid, being an energy conductor, being a free energy system, you know? Crazy stuff like that. I don't subscribe to any specific theories as dogma. I'm not that type of person. I leave it open-ended. I like to touch. I like to see. I like to smell. I'm a very much a tangible.
I think any rational person would change their opinion if they had new information. Like, I would say, actually, don't believe any of those things. But if someone was like, hey, actually, I found proof that the pyramids do conduct energy, and here's the proof. You know, if it was compelling, I could change my mind. I could change my mind on anything.
And that's just same thing with me, though. Same thing with me. I can stay open-ended and be like, yeah, some crop circles are fucking insane, and what kind of person would go out and do that? But
I would say, yeah, plenty of bored rural people.
Yeah, but at the same time, you know, a lot of these crop circles have stalks that are bent and then intertwined into like micro-symmetrical figures inside. But if somebody came up and said, here's all the evidence on how I did this, it's my hobby, and it's been a long-running Banksy-style live-action art project, I'd be like, okay, cool. Awesome.
People are weird. It's more likely that people did weird shit than that there's aliens. But I don't know.
Yeah.
So a lot of people believe in aliens. I personally am a skeptic. I feel like I also love sci-fi. So I love Star Trek. I love The Expanse. I've been watching recently. That's a really good show.
I am. I like Star Trek too. Do you watch the animated Star Trek?
When you say the animated, do you mean the 80s animated series, or do you mean the new Lower Decks?
No, the old cartoon from the fucking 70s, 80s.
It's like the one that like everyone hates on.
I love it, man. I love it.
It's wild. It's like they clearly like had like 5 people like make a Star Trek show for kids. I don't care what you do.
We got William Shatner in the studio every now and again. Like they're gonna do the voices for it. Just get this set up, please. I loved it. I love that stuff. But I'm with you on that too. But at the same time, I like to get into some esoteric kind of education stuff. Like I subscribe to multiverse theory. I'm not
no scientific basis for that.
Yeah. So that right there, multiverse theory.
There's the light experiment where if you have like if you make very small holes and
double
say
slit
4 pieces of carbon, double slit, and it's like so only one molecule of light can pass.
It's affected.
Through.
Light's physical state is affected by observation of an individual. So
they use the light so if you have 4 beams of light going through, they don't all go straight through. They move around, which either means that the beams of light influence each other, or like you said, viewing them influences it, or there's something, maybe a multiverse pulls on it, or the really cool thing about physics is that over time we understand more and more and more, so maybe there's something we can't even conceive of right now that is causing something like that.
Yeah, like gravity, man. And this is another thing.
How does gravity work? No one actually knows.
Yeah, and this is the one crux that a lot of the flat earthers rely on to get you, to stump you, to grab you. Yeah, well, what about gravity, man? Have you ever grabbed a handful of gravity and shown it to your friend? You know what, man? Fuck you for a second, okay? And we're talking about real stuff right now. You can't just throw gravity in there. Because, yeah, it's a theory, but it's not actually you know what? Fuck you, you flat earth dick.
Why would you say that gravity is something we don't fully understand right now? And
well,
I
no,
think there's a lot of smart people working on it.
I'm saying argument based with flat earthers. That's one thing they go, and this is where I say I dropped out of high school. So these are things that I'm not even going to claim to understand or begin to know how to research. Just because I read an article or argue with a flat earther, that's not the beginnings of research, man. Like, I might read a couple articles by some cool scientists on one end of it and on the other end, but that's not researching a topic by any stance.
So you mentioned, okay, you don't have a college degree, sure, but, I went to a college that had an evolutionary psychology degree. Evolutionary psychology is kind of like a debunked science. So if you went to college and you got an evolutionary psychology degree, what did you get a degree in? Something that, no scientist believes in?
Right?
So,
would you call that a pseudoscience?
I think that I'm not an expert on this field. I did have a roommate who got a minor in it, but like it seems like it's like there's really no scientific basis for it. Like you just decide like I think we evolved like this for that, but like there's really not a basis for it. Not
Really?
like in an empirical way.
Man, I wish I didn't have so much responsibility in life. I think I'd have a real good time at college.
I went to a state school in New York. My mom worked very hard to make sure that she could pay for college for me and my sister, which I
Respect.
very much appreciate. She's a
Respect,
nurse. She's
buddy.
in the union. Education's very important to her. She did very well by her kids. Really, I appreciate it endlessly. It was not an easy thing for her to do. But yeah, a lot of women are nurses because they can provide for their families, and I think that's great. And I think they deserve every penny they make. They work very hard. So
Alex works in a clinic as well.
that's great. Yeah. No, I'll also obviously respect for healthcare workers, but it's a grind. It's a hard job. It requires a lot of empathy and a lot of knowledge. It's not an easy thing. And but yeah, my mom was also very pragmatic financially. She was like, if you go to a state school, I can cover your education. I'm very fortunate and privileged in that way. I want to point that out. Obviously, I have a lot of friends who have loans and things like that in the States. But yeah, I went to a state school and yeah, I don't know. Like college is like it's like cool. You can like hang out with people who are interesting. Like I
That's
feel like
what
I feel
would
that
be
way.
interested in, is finding like-minded people.
You kind of get to see also some people who seem cool and then later it turns out they're full of shit and you get to like, oh, this person is like not like they seemed really cool when I was 18 and now that I'm like 22 at the time, like this person's kind of like maybe they just think drugs are great and that's kind of the end of it. And as you get older you realize that, like like the coolest thing unfortunately is caring about other people. Doesn't get cooler than that.
I feel the exact same way. Like I don't care about your money and your materialism and cool stuff. I want to know about who you are and how you treat other people. I want to know about
That's the big thing.
Yeah, I want to know about your relationships and interactions with other people in your life, man. Like, stuff is fucking stuff, man. I could fucking hit a button and order stuff off the internet. Like, I can make pictures into real stuff with a click of a mouse. I want to hear about intangible relationships with people that I might never meet in my life. Dickie Barrett handing you $100 bills, man. Like, that's not something I'm gonna have happen to me anytime soon.
Like it could happen. It's happened to some people. It hasn't happened to no people.
If I go run into Dickie Barrett, who knows? He might have a pocket of fucking hundos, man.
Pocket Hondas will tell you a funny story about Jimmy Kimmel, and you'll be on your way.
Fuck Jimmy Kimmel, man.
He's an interesting character. I think he has done some comedy that's very bad.
I just don't. He's just not on my radar, man. He was better. He's not good alone. He's not a good alone comic, man. Like, come on. He's not.
I don't watch this show that much. Someone I'm worried about in comedy, I don't have to digress too much, is I'm worried about John Mulaney because he went to rehab and he's a comedian. I think a lot of people like, John Mulaney. Like I say, like 3 or 4 months ago, went to rehab for alcohol and cocaine.
Really, eh? The fucking Hollywood special. Hell yeah.
He a lot of his comedy, he talks about being an alcoholic. I don't know if he talks about cocaine that much in his act, but the other thing is he just the news today, and I'm not particularly usually like a gossip person for like celebrities, but he announced him and his wife are getting divorced, and like that was also very surprising to me because a lot of his act, he always speaks very highly of his wife. Like he's never like, oh my wife. He's always like very respectful. And I appreciated that a comedian was like respectful of their wife. Like there was like a reference there,
Being that respectful might be why they're getting a divorce, right? Don't want to force.
I don't know. It could be a self-destructive tendency.
Yeah,
apparently he asked for it before. Yeah, it's hard to speculate. And like I've seen some people try to make jokes like, "Oh, John Mulaney's single now," and I've seen other people like, "Hey, I can't even make that joke. Like I'm just worried about him."
Yeah, because he has such a clean style, such a very well put together like professional writer. Like him and Nick Kroll together are like What's that one part or that one couple or that one duo?
Big Mouth, that show?
No.
Oh, not Big Mouth. Then it was on Netflix. It was on Broadway.
Oh, Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
And oh man, I was always like, this guy is professional comedian peak. He's a stand-up. He's a writer. He's a voiceover actor. He's an actual actor. Like, this is the peak professional comedy. So to hear somebody like that going through such human, like really human situations, you know, that heightens my respect for that person even more. Like, people need to quit putting other individuals on a pedestal just because they see them on TV and they enjoy the entertainment they produce.
Yeah, I think he's very talented. I love his art and I love his stand-up. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, he's a person, and you know, like you mentioned, you're an ex-addict. I've done addicts, and I have an empathy, and I don't feel like I personally know what it's like to be in your shoes, but like
empathy is it, man. Empathy.
It's got to be so difficult. Like I've spoken to people, and like it's very hard. It's not just a decision. It's not just. I know there's a degree of willpower. But like it's very difficult, and like I have a lot of respect for you for taking a step back from that. And it also seems like you're very open-minded about solutions. Like you are cool with smoking weed, and I think that makes sense. You're cool with mushrooms for depression. I think that shows that you're actually like you talk a lot about not having a college degree, but it's not the arbiter of intelligence. You're open-minded about how to treat yourself to get the best results, and I think that is actually very intelligent.
Well, I also understand that if I would have tried to force myself through education and post-secondary education, I probably would have ended up in a worse situation than I am now.
It's stressful. It's a lot of stress, and like there's cool stuff. I feel like it's like we have this like stigma that education has to be like fast and hard, but I feel like you learn things better when it's like slower and there's more discussion. Like, why do you have to like understand like, you know, Karl Marx? So you have to like understand all of that in like a day, and it's like, yeah, there's some cool ideas there, and like I have some criticisms, but like I took a class where like it wasn't aggressive, and we talked about like, you know, like, oh, the theory of like, you know, price is derived from labor, and did like Karl Marx really prove that? And it was just like a low pressure environment, and it was like a cool discussion.
That's what I like. That's what would drive me to go to post-secondary education, is to like-minded individuals. You're all in a class where you want to be, you chose to be, you worked to get there, so you're excited to be there to a certain degree. You're excited for the interactions with these individuals because it's furthering your goals in life.
I love if college was just like one class at a time.
This is the same thing that I'm doing with the podcast, though. Interactions with like-minded people, so I can get excited about what we're like-minded about. Like, so in a sense, I'm doing it. I'm living what I want to do. Plain and
That's
simple.
spirit. I think a podcast is cool because people are generally open. Like we're having a lot of conversations where I think we're like being really cool about a lot of stuff and very understanding, right? We're talking about conspiracy theories, a very hot button topic, but we came at it from a place of like not of like harsh judgment, but more like of intrigue. And we talked about like the culture around it and why people would believe in stuff. Whereas like online, someone might be like, fuck conspiracy theories, you know, like just like that.
Conspiracy theories ruined my family because my dad got into QAnon and him and my mom got a divorce over it, and I can't even hear about conspiracy theories ever again. The words just set me off, you know, because there are situations like that, man. I've heard a couple of stories.
Sure.
Shit's wildin'.
But like talking about Heaven's Gate, it's like a very different conspiracy theory experience. Like that's kind of interesting. There's like a lot of crazy stuff that happens. There's a lot of sociology there. I mean, at this point, we're kind of removed from it, so maybe it's a little easier to talk about. But like, I don't know, that kind of stuff. Like, dude, but like, I don't know. Like we talked about this earlier. I think that there, like, for a long time in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, you know, and even before, they're like believing conspiracy theories was a bit of like an alt identity, and that maybe you were more open-minded about things. Whereas now it's become this like really kind of like rigid, fucked up thing. And it's like, I don't know, maybe kind of a bummer that this label of conspiracy theorist went from being like your friend's brother who smoked weed and talked about aliens.
Hat. Yeah, exactly. But he still goes to work. He's not a murderer. He's not a...
You weren't afraid of that guy, though. You weren't afraid of them. And if they had theories, you were actually maybe even interested because it was kind of fun to take a step back from like maybe mainstream thinking.
They were picking you up from the older brother is picking you up from the fucking high school dance at the end of the night because he knows you're drunk and he knows you're getting home and he's telling you these fucking weird conspiracy theories. You kids don't even understand, man. That alcohol is part of a fucking control scheme put on you by the mass media, man. You got to get that booze out of your system. Here, smoke this weed instead. Regardless,
It's not a bad theory. It's not a bad theory. I don't think weed is as bad for you as alcohol. More of a drinker than a smoker, but I think that booze is definitely worse for you physically.
it is. It's just that's exactly what physically, socially. There's a lot of reasons why booze is worse, but once again, good old capitalism.
Well, it was illegal in the U.S. for a couple of years.
But then they found out that the mob was making more money than the government was.
I know, it's so fucked up. They're like, that's
need
a
to
great
regulate
example
that.
of like, I know they made booze illegal and then they literally like made organized crime a thing in America. Like, what the fuck up? But I am a Jewish person. I'm not particularly religious, but I feel like one of the under-discussed issues with making alcohol illegal is that, well, for Jewish people, there's a lot of holidays where you need wine. So Jewish people would make this like tub wine. They would make it in their bathtubs, and they would add a lot of sugar because it was terrible. And when people think of Jewish kosher wine now, they think of this brand Manischewitz. Manischewitz is
I've heard some punk rock songs about that.
Manischewitz is made to replicate this like sugary, disgusting tub wine because that's all some people could make. But like that's not like there's other kosher wines that taste fine, but this Manischewitz specifically is modeled after this disgusting sugary tub wine. So like that's definitely not the biggest issue with making alcohol illegal in America, but I feel like it's the one that affects me the most.
Oh man, hell yeah, that's awesome. Now, that's another big thing that's interested me about New York.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of Jews here, but not in other places in America. That's weird.
Now, I read that because of Jewish holidays and because of the Orthodox Jews and where they live, there's a wire around Central Park, I think, or around a certain neighborhood that the higher up Orthodox Jewish individuals, they inspect the wire because if that wire's broken, they can't leave their house with their keys or something. They can't have their keys on them.
I've never heard of that. There's a lot of rules about the Sabbath, so
I don't want to sound disrespectful by like sounding all those things together because it interests me. It really does.
Yeah. So a couple things. One, outside of New York and maybe like Israel, not a lot of Jews in the world. Also, by the way, I have a lot of issues with Israel. I don't want people to think that every Jewish person supports Israel automatically. They definitely do an unbelievable amount of fucked up things. I have nothing against Palestinian people. I think they should have their land. I think what's happening right now is fucking terrible. So it's just, that's not, I think the idea of being Jewish and blindly supporting Israel is garbage. Anyway, we'll just put that to the side for now.
Of course.
For me, yeah, I'm a Jewish person, and it's my heritage. Like it's like, well,
you're not from Israel. You have no ties to fucking Israel, so you don't have.
No. I know there's some complication there for certain people, like the idea of having like a homeland, but I think it's a complicated issue, and I think that certainly Palestinian folks get shortchanged a lot, and I don't think being Jewish automatically makes you not. I have nothing against Palestinian people, and I don't think their land should be taken away.
People aren't superior. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's like a very quick aside. I think it's fucked up that Jewish people were the victims of fascism, and then they decided to just make their own fascist country. It's like, no, it's completely nonsensical to me. But whatever.
But yeah, moving on from that.
So the Sabbath is Friday night to Saturday morning, and there's like a lot of. It's funny. There's like rules about what you can and can't do. Like there's a thing called like a Shabbos goy. So Shabbos is like the Sabbath. So there are some Jewish people who will pay a non-Jewish person to like do tasks for them during the Sabbath that they're not allowed to do as like a workaround. There's like a lot of like workarounds, which is kind of funny. I was raised like Reform, which is like one of the least religious sects of Judaism. So for me, it's more like, similar to like how like a Christian person might just do like Christmas and Easter and go to church sometimes.
Okay,
like,
you still do
like
Hanukkah and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Hanukkah's actually not even that religious of a holiday. And there's like a lot of other holidays that I like more. But I haven't heard about anything around Central Park. Huh, that's
I'd have
interesting.
to send you the article because it was really, really interesting. That's what kind of
There's some weird stuff though. Like I don't want to just like so. Okay, the other thing that a lot of people get wrong is when it comes to like very religious Jews, there's Orthodox Jews and there's Hasidic Jews, and they're different groups. Hasidic
Yes.
Jews are more like a cult. So they came over to the States in like the 1920s. They're mostly of Hungarian descent, and it's like it's not a thing that happened before they started doing that. It's not like, oh, those are just religious Jews. Like it's more of like a movement in and of itself, and like they're very insular and they have their own laws and they don't integrate into society, which I think is like kind of a thing. But it's interesting that there's like people in Brooklyn who like speak Yiddish and not English because like they're Hasidic Jews. Like that's kind of an interesting situation, especially to me as a Jewish person who also grew up in New York, but like very secular.
Really? Yiddish, but not English.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I've heard. I haven't personally met anyone, so maybe I'm wrong there.
But that's still, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, New York is a very, very varied place.
Very diverse, but yeah, for sure. And like, you know, especially in the city, you have communities of like literally like every different group of people, and I think that makes us all a little bit more like worldly and appreciative in a lot of ways. But yeah, like so I used to when I lived in South Brooklyn. For a couple months, I had to walk through this neighborhood, Borough Park. That's pretty much all Hasidic. And, like every day, I would walk like a mile through this neighborhood. That was interesting. Yeah, you go to a store and like it's like different. It's like being in a different country. It's like very interesting. Like I said, everyone like speaks Yiddish. Yeah, I've spoken to some folks there, and they were all nice to me. Like I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Well, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do to make them not nice to you? It's not like you're going in acting like an asshole, putting your phone in their face, and like, oh, I need to get footage of Hasidic Jews to show my friends how different the world is.
Oh yeah, I was just walking through.
Just a person going through their neighborhood, like.
It does feel like a different, like in the sense. So like I've been to Montreal. Montreal feels very Europe, right? Like because it's like all the Quebecois stuff and like I don't know, but I feel like. That neighborhood in Brooklyn had a similar kind of feel where it was like it didn't feel like the rest of Brooklyn because of like this big cultural difference.
That's rad, man. Oh, I crave it. I fucking crave it. I've been raised around the rednecks and hockey players my whole life. And I fucking crave it. Like, whoo.
You might like C-Spot, and you know, once COVID is not as much of a thing. Well, the music festival I always push is Fest in Gainesville, Florida. I feel like that community is pretty open. That's been my favorite punk rock community. It's like if Pooza, instead of Montreal, was in a nowhere town in Florida called Gainesville, that's what Fest is.
I'm a Less Than Jake fan, man. I know all.
Oh, yeah, Gainesville.
Florida. You know how many songs I've heard about Gainesville, Florida? You know how many times I was sure that Gainesville, Florida was written, those songs were written about my fucking town.
I mean, the truth of it is, if you go during Fest time, it's actually, like, awesome.
Hell yeah, man.
The whole town empties out. Everyone goes to this football game in Jacksonville, all, like, the locals, and then all the punks come in, and it's just Fest. The whole town, Fest, all weekend. It's, like, the best ever. It's my favorite. I have, like, a million Fest tattoos.
Fucking fantastic. Craig, we have been going for almost 3 hours now.
Yeah, it's been a while. We could step back.
Okay, so now I'm going to extend to you another invitation to come back on the podcast so we can continue with this. Because it's
you want to do more conspiracy theories next time?
All about it, buddy, for sure.
I'm more of the skeptic, but I feel like you're more of the believer, and I think that makes for an interesting contrast.
Hell yeah, man. Now, I'm actually going to be doing streams with my friends where we're going to be doing watch parties. When my friend Brody, he has a studio here in the city, and he's a guitar player and a vocalist. He was in a thrash metal band who played with like Death Angel and toured with Warbringer and stuff like that. I don't know if you know thrash, but we're gonna watch the first ever episode of Ancient Aliens, and we're gonna smoke joints, and we're gonna deep dive into Ancient Aliens, and then I got another buddy who's gonna do a skeptic one. So maybe I should find a good, weird conspiracy show for me and you to do a deep dive on, my friend.
Ooh, maybe the Bigfoot one. Ancient Aliens.
Bigfoot. I don't got Bigfoot on there yet. We could definitely do Bigfoot. I got some cool Bigfoot ones. You know Todd Standing?
I don't.
Todd Standing is up here in Canada, and he's the guy who claims that he has enough physical evidence to petition the Supreme Court to declare Sasquatch fucking American wildlife. North American wildlife. He lives in Canada, and he actually does Sasquatch tours. Nordegg, Northern Alberta, Rocky Mountain House. Nordegg is actually one of the most active Sasquatch sighting spots in the world.
Okay, if you need a skeptic for that kind of stuff, that's the sort of conspiracy theory where you can have fun, right? Because, like, if I'm wrong, it's like, Sasquatch is real. All right, well, it's not like my ideology has failed me.
Oh, man, my economics degree is meaningless because Sasquatch exists.
We could discuss what Sasquatch uses for currency. It'll be full circle.
No. Now they found a pile of pine cones that was in a really weird spot. Do you think this is Bigfoot money?
I'd love to talk about that. That sounds very interesting.
Bankfoot.
Bankfoot! Oh man, you fucking no podcast. You got to start a band called Bankfoot. You got it all figured out.
Bigfoot wearing a suit with a briefcase, man. There's the merch right there.
Yeah. Well, hit me up if you need a skeptic or if you need someone who can pretend to know a lot about economics or finance.
I will, Craig. This has been fantastic, man. For another thing too, I want you to tell all your friends that if they got anything to promote, any music they want to talk about, to send me a message, and we will set up a time and we will talk and we will hang out just like me and you did, and I will play their music and I will say amazing things about it to all my friends, just like I did with your music. Because this is what I love to do.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll let people know.
Hell yeah, man. Thank you so much. This has been great. Now this is the time where you get to do your shout-outs, buddy.
Oh, hey, I'm Craig Shay. I have some solo music on the internet. It's like acoustic and it's fine. Better than that, though, I play in a band called Coldrex. It's like pop punk, emo. The joke is it's like pop punk for dads, emo for pop punk kids. I also play in a band called Answering Machine. I play bass in that band. Everyone's very talented. It's just fun to play in that band. What else do I do? I'm trying to join a ska band called The Missteps. That's pretty cool. They have a really good Superdrag cover of that song, Sucked Out. But I'm trying to play drums, and I'm not thinking of a drummer, so I don't know if it'll work out. But yeah, that's all my stuff.
Hell yeah, Craig. Well, before we spread off, I want to just bring up again Citizen Rage. Citizen Rage is a local Calgary band, Craig. They have a campaign going on right now called the Positivity Through Community campaign, where they have a selection of merchandise items with very positive messages on them. Hug your homies, end hate, fuck racism, big letters, hardcore style. They are running a Positivity Through Community campaign where a portion of every merch sale goes to 3 organizations: Canadian Mental Health Association in Calgary, Inclusive Canada, and the Bear Clan Patrol. Now, these are 3 organizations helping the less fortunate around our community and around other communities that they can get into contact with. So if you want to help out, we're Canada, Alberta, we're in another 3-week lockdown. There's only so much helping you can really do without putting yourself and others at risk. So reach out, find out, support small business, support your friends, talk to them, ask them, hey, what can I do to support you? Don't just make empty fucking gestures and think that GoFundMe is going to save a fucking life. Because that's how we have fucking radicalized fucking church pastors with thousands and thousands of dollars in their fucking pocket for no reason. So, let's stop that. Let's start donating to the people who matter. Let's listen to more Coldrex. Let's listen to more Citizen Rage. Let's treat strangers nice. Let's treat everybody nice. And let's have a great Tuesday night, and let's have the great rest of the week. So, for myself, natetrash, from the boss hanging out behind me, Craig, this has been fantastic. For everybody who's popped in and watched us on Twitch, this is the first interview I've done entirely and only on Twitch. So, this will go up on YouTube later, though. So thank you so much for watching. Craig, thank you for doing this with us. From Calgary, Alberta, from Westchester, New York. It's been I want to go there so bad, so bad. It's been Craig and it's been Nate, and you guys have been awesome. Cheers, everyone. Thank you so much. Good